What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Dominic Rich, and I have a special guest with me once again, your one and only Football Pharaoh. Football Pharaoh, how are you doing? Tell the people where they can find you on YouTube and on social media.
You can find me on YouTube. The YouTube channel's name is Football Pharaoh, and you can find me on Twitter as well. Same name, Football Pharaoh, at Soccer Pharaoh. That's at Soccer Pharaoh.
Lovely. So in today's video, Football Pharaoh and I, as he mentioned, will be ranking all 55 member associations in UEFA on their chances of going to Qatar, basically qualifying for the 2022 World Cup. And we're using this tier list where we have 5 different tiers: going to Qatar, standby, missed the flight, visa denied, and invalid passport. Just to give you a brief explanation of all tiers, let's start from the bottom. Invalid passports, basically we put into that category teams that are just ranked minnows and absolutely have no chance of making it. Visa denied, a little better than those teams, and they won't make it, but they just won't make it. Miss the flight are teams that will show some promise, teams that may have qualified for the World Cup before, but from our assessment of how they are doing, would just miss the flight. And it takes us to standby, where we are going to put teams that we know can make it. Is a possibility they can get through to the playoffs, but we're not 100% sold, or we're not 100% sure that they will. And going to Qatar in green, we are giving those teams the green light. We are fully convinced that they will definitely be playing the Winter World Cup in Qatar 2022. You understand what we do in Football Pharaoh, right? Fully.
Absolutely. I like the organization behind it all, and yeah, I can't wait to dive into it. You know, you and I, guys, we know you love this material, and Dom and I love making it, and we're a bunch of nerds. We know many of you are as well. So we got the flags here. I'm sure a lot of you will know. So yeah, this should be a juicy one.
Definitely, man. So before we do get into the groups, we will be doing this group by group. So there's from group A to group, I think, J. So we'll be going through all the groups, 55 teams. We'll be showing every team a little bit of love and some hate as well. But before we do, we are going to let you know the format for which teams can qualify for the 2022 Qatar World Cup. So there's 13 spots available for UEFA. That's the most spots for any confederation. And for the group stages, there'll be 10 groups of 5 or 6 teams, with the 4 teams that made it to the UEFA Nations League final being in the smaller groups. So the group winners of each and every one of the 10 groups will qualify directly to Qatar. So we will know 10 teams that will make it to Qatar after the group stages are over. But how do you come up with the next 3 teams? Well, there'll be a playoff spot, and this time around there's a twist. The 10 group runners-up would be joined by the best 2 Nations League group winners. This is very important to note. Group winners based on the Nations League overall ranking that finished outside the top 2 of their qualifying group. So 2 teams would actually pair up with the 10 runners-up, and those teams have to place outside the top 2 in their groups. But those teams have to be eligible to get into the back door there. They have to win the Nations League group. And according to the Nations League ranking, then is where they would actually get the opportunity to make it to the playoffs. So these 12 teams will be drawn into 3 playoff paths, playing 2 rounds of single match playoffs, semis and final, with the home teams to be drawn, with the 3 path winners qualifying directly to the World Cup. And I think I did my best explaining that. And Football Pharaoh, that was clear, right?
Clear as day to me, at least.
And we just had to clarify that back door into the playoffs via the Nations League, because that could be very, very, very tricky. So without further ado, let's get into this, man. I'm so looking forward to doing this. You don't even understand. And we are going to start from Group A. Portugal leads the table with 7 points. Serbia second with 7. Luxembourg third with 3. Republic of Ireland without a point. And Azerbaijan without a point. Before we go through each and every team, just to note that there's 2 potential debutants in this group, Luxembourg and Azerbaijan. Let us start with bottom of the pile, Azerbaijan, Football Pharaoh. Talk to me and then I'll give my thoughts on where I have them as well.
So I don't consider Azerbaijan to be among the minnows in Europe. I think they're well above in quality, ahead of many other teams like Malta and Andorra and certainly San Marino. But because of where they are in the group right now, and given the opposition in their group, I actually have them at invalid passport. I thought about putting them at visa denied, but I felt like being a little bit harsh here. I just don't see any path forward for them. So I have them in invalid passport.
I actually have them in visa denied because they're not a very bad team, and we know traveling to Azerbaijan could be hell, literally. It's called the land of fire. So the distance of traveling to Azerbaijan is unreal, man. So good luck to the teams traveling there. So we're not going to linger too much. Azerbaijan, as we said, are potential debutants, and they're not a team that we really think is going to scratch the surface in terms of qualifying for Qatar 2022. Do they have a backdoor via the Nations League? No, they do not. So we're going to move right on. Nothing else to add on Azerbaijan. Let's talk about the Republic of Ireland, who last qualified for the World Cup in 2002. They made it in 1990 and in 1994. And they got as far as the round of 16, even the quarterfinals back in 1990. So let us talk about the Republic of Ireland. What are your thoughts?
I think Ireland's in a little bit of trouble. It's still very early on in the qualifiers with, I believe, 7 match days still to go. One of their upcoming games is against Portugal, which should be an L on paper. They were put to the sword by Luxembourg back in March, and sitting right now on the table, I believe. What are they on? They're currently on 0 points from their first 2 games.
Yeah.
Now,
3
granted,
games. Isn't it 2 games? 2 games. They played 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Granted, they have 1 game in hand over Serbia and Portugal, but 7 points is quite a little bit of distance. I think Ireland are not on track, of course, to break that 20-year spell of being missing the World Cup. I have them on miss the flight.
Yeah, same here. Same here. But you just got to say koi big. Koi big. Come on, you boys in green. You could do better than that. The teams, you know, the way they stack up in this group, not very good. Last time around, they did miss out via the playoffs. They got smashed up by Denmark. You could remember that. And this time around, I don't think they'll come close to the playoffs at all. Not even top the group. Do they have a backdoor via the Nations League? No, they do not. So,
nope. They finished a very distant 3rd in their group, I believe, behind Wales and Finland. Didn't win a single game.
So the Republic of Ireland, we could all conclude they have been in the mud recently. Luxembourg, talk to me. Luxembourg are potential debutants, and interestingly, they have been trying since the 1934 World Cup, and they have failed every single time. But this is a very improved team. You could see they picked up a victory against the Republic of Ireland. And I don't know if they'll compete too much against Portugal and Serbia, but it's a good start to their World Cup qualifying campaign. What are your thoughts on Luxembourg?
I think Luxembourg have an outside chance to challenge for a playoff spot, especially if the Irish continue to mess things up and if Serbia were to fall by the wayside. But even though the fact in the last few years they have very much so risen their stock, I think they're one of the more improved teams in Europe, certainly. who could forget that famous result that they got, a 0-0 draw in World Cup qualifying back in 2017 against the eventual champions, France. But I'm going to be a little bit harsh here. I just don't see it. I have them in visa denied.
So Luxembourg, visa denied according to Football Pharaoh. So just locate the flag there. Nice flag. Looks like the Netherlands flag, but it is not. It's a light. Did I get the flag right though?
Yeah, you did.
I did. Okay, good. Just want to make sure. Don't want to mess things up here. But I also, where do I have Luxembourg? I do have them on miss the flight. So you have them in visa denied, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to move right on to Serbia. We're in the region where these teams could act. They stand a very good chance of qualifying for the World Cup. Serbia and Portugal level on 7 points, but we'll start with Serbia first, who, as Serbia, qualified for the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, and they were at the last World Cup in Russia, and they're not a bad outfit at all. Talk to me about Serbia.
Serbia's placement right now in the group, they're right neck and neck with the Portuguese. I thought they were a little bit fortunate to not drop all their points at home. There was a goal by Cristiano Ronaldo, you may remember, that would have given Portugal the 3-2 victory that was incorrectly called off. There was no goal line technology that was used in that match. But, you know, they'll take it. They'll happily take it. They're undefeated so far in this group. 2018 World Cup participants, just individually as a team. They're an overall way more talented squad than the other three sides we've talked about in this group. But they should still finish behind the reigning Nations League champions. So I have Serbia on standby. I think at this point they should get to the playoffs, and then from there it's all about who they meet.
Same here, same thoughts. Just for fun fact, back in 2018, the Republic of Ireland actually placed second behind Serbia in their group, and Serbia qualified directly. So these teams, they have history, and they will be at war during this World Cup qualification cycle. So Serbia, you never know what could happen though, Football Pharaoh. You know what I'm saying? With UEFA's blunder, not having goal line technology, I think they do have it this time around. And I'm not even, matter of fact, I'm not even sure, but UEFA, you're suspect for not having all the technology available in World Cup qualifiers, for crying out loud. So are they gonna pull an upset against Portugal? Listen, judging from what we saw at the Euros with Portugal, you never know. I'm just gonna put that out there. You never know. Portugal might just be going through playoffs, but I'm just saying that for reasoning's sake. But for Portugal, who placed third, their best finish in 1966. They qualified in 1986. They made it from 2002 all the way to 2018. So for the last, let's say, 20 years, they have been powerhouses in world football and very consistent in terms of qualifying for the FIFA World Cup. What are your thoughts on Portugal and their chances of making it to Qatar 2022?
There's always a chance that Portugal could make a meal out of this group, and in past World Cup cycles, they've had to go through the playoffs in order to make it to the showpiece event. But I expect them to be on that flight to Qatar. I have them indefinitely going to Qatar. I think this Portuguese team all around is an even better one that won the Euros 5 years ago. I don't read too much in Euro 2020 because they came through a very hellacious group with the Germans and the French and an unexpectedly tough Hungarian side. A very grueling game against Belgium that they narrowly lost out in. So, yeah, I mean, this is looking like it's possibly going to be Cristiano Ronaldo's last hurrah, but Coach Fernando Santos in the last few years has brought in some young, fresh faces into this squad. And I think that they should qualify, and they should, on paper, at least in my view, be contenders.
Yes, man. Wealth of talent in every department. Goalkeeping, defending, right back, left back, forwards. You know, you have your Diego Jota, Andre Silva, Gonzalo Guedes, Joao Felix. You have your Bruno Fernandes. You have the list goes on, man. Sergio Oliveira, Cristiano Ronaldo, and I could keep naming these names on and on and on. The big defender Pepe is still around, and it's hard not to see Portugal qualifying directly for Qatar 2022. So I also have them qualifying directly. So we're just gonna put them in going to Qatar, and all the best to all 5 teams in the group. May the best teams qualify, but that'll be it for our analysis of Group A. So Football Ferrer, one thing we have to note, if Portugal finishes outside the top 2, they will not have a Nations League path into the playoffs. So they better finish top 2. And as of now, it looks like everything's on the money. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, they should qualify. I think they should do it undefeated. I mean, Serbia were always a tough outfit, but, on paper, at least that away game should have been their toughest game. Ireland are struggling. Luxembourg and the others, Luxembourg and Azerbaijan, just not good enough. So I would be very shocked if Portugal did not qualify.
Well said. And we will move on to the next group, Group B, where there's Spain, Sweden, Greece, Georgia, and Kosovo. Before we continue, let's note Spain are the only team from this group that has a Nations League lifeline in the event that they place outside the top 2 in this group B. And who knows what'll happen, man. But still, just want to make note that they have that lifeline for the Nations League. They have that cushion. And UEFA always finds a way to find any way to prevent the big teams from somehow missing out, if you really look at it, right? Look at what happened to Italy the last time around. I'm pretty sure, and the USA as well. Well, there's no loophole from the USA, but they missed a lot of money from the USA and Italy not making it to Russia 2018, I'm pretty sure. Talk to me about Kosovo, potential debutants, second World Cup qualifiers ever. Talk to me, Kosovo.
Very interesting Balkan nation. Just joined UEFA, I think, back in 2015. I mean, they're a decent, I think, second or third string side. I think that they were promoted from their Nations League group in the first season from D into League C. They've been somewhat on the rise as well. I have them at visa denied just because I think the group overall, even teams outside of Spain and Sweden, you look at Greece, you look at Georgia, that's like very stiff competition for Kosovo. I don't see very much in quality separating those 3 sides. That's why I think they should duke it out for those last 3 spots. But I think it might be 1 or 2 cycles too early for Kosovo to really make a huge impact. But they're not a minnow by at all. That's all. But I have them at visa denied. If they were in a slightly more navigable group, I would put them at missed the flight.
Yeah, they have some very talented players in their team, man. Milo Rashica come to mind. There's Valan Berisha and a few more names. I'm not really gonna Bersan Selina, former Man City player. So they have the talent. Ari Muric, who does play for Man City, he's out on loan. So they do have talent in their team. And as you said, it might be a few cycles too early. So guys, do not write off Kosovo for the 2030 World Cup, maybe we should say.
Yeah, possibly. It'll be at least a couple cycles.
Yeah, but I like the emergence of new teams though. So we are gonna move on to Georgia. Oh, Georgia. Talk to me about Georgia. Potential debutants. The closest they ever came to qualify was in 2002. So if you want, do some research on Georgia, 2002 World Cup qualification, and you'll see how close they got. So talk to me about Georgia.
Well, just like their neighbors in the Caucasus, Armenia and Azerbaijan, playing away in Tbilisi is a difficult away venue. So far, they've been not pushed around in this group. They denied Spain until stoppage time in their game in home in March. They went away and got a draw against Greece. So they're a stubborn thorn in everyone's side. That's how Georgia has always been. But much like Kosovo, I think because of the group itself being very difficult, I also have them at visa denied.
Well said, man. Big up to the boy Karavatskhelia. I was you know, perusing through the internet, and I found out that Kvaratskhelia, the young talented player from Georgia, he picked up an injury. I think he'll be out for the long term. He plays his football in Russia. So, yeah, hope he gets fit and could help Georgia qualify for the World Cup in Qatar. So, where do you have Georgia again, just to reiterate?
I have them a visa denied.
So, visa denied, Georgia. Same here. Same here for Kosovo. Same here for Georgia. And we're going to move right on to the next team. Greece, 2004 European champions.
Yeah, with Greece, that was a storybook year for them, wasn't it? Euro 2004, one of the biggest shocks in international football in recent memory. Ever since the 2014 World Cup, though, they've not qualified for any major tournament. They've missed the last World Cup. They missed the last 2 European Championships, both of which were expanded to 24 nations. They were unable to make it to. But, you know, they, as I will mention again when we talk about Spain, they're showing flashes here and there of still being that side that is difficult to put away. They went away from home in Spain and got a famous draw. They're a class above the likes of Kosovo and Georgia, but I put them below the Swedes and the Spaniards. So I think miss the flight is a fair categorization for Greece.
Yeah, in terms of Greece, I do have them in miss the flight as well. So yeah, the glory days are over, man. It's definitely over. So Greece missed the flight. So where's the freaking Greece flag again? God damn, I can't find the flag. Yeah, right
Keep
here.
going. Right there.
Right here. Missed the flight, guys. It's gonna be very tricky with these flags in these circles, man. But in terms of Greece, they qualified for the 94, 2010, and the 2014 World Cup. They made the playoffs back in 2018, and from what I could recall, they lost to Croatia, right?
Yes, they did, yeah. The eventual finalists, yeah.
Exactly. So that's not a bad team to actually lose to. So look out for players like Kostas Tsimikas, Vlachodimos, the goalkeeper, Zeka, Mantolas, and Papastotopoulos, Socrates, Papadopoulos, as well. Kyriakos, you gotta remember the Manolas, very talented defender as well. Bouchalakis. So they do have quality in their team, though. It's just about coming together and putting good performances and knocking off Sweden and Spain. And they've shown that they can compete with that draw against Spain. So for Greece, though, I don't think they're good enough to make it to Qatar. So definitely miss the flight. Next up, we have Sweden. They have 6 points right now in the group. They have qualified for 12 out of 21 World Cups. And they hosted the World Cup back in 1958. And they were quarterfinalists in 2018. Talk to me about Sweden.
Standby. I really liked what I saw from them in Euro 2020. I think that Emil Forsberg's team really let him down in that round of 16 clash against Ukraine. He had a couple of efforts, I believe, that struck the post. Very unlucky stuff. I would have loved to have seen them advance further in that tournament. And they took the group stages by storm. They held Spain level. They picked up victories against Slovakia and Poland in the process. I want to see guys like Alexander Isak really step up, the youngster, and see what kind of role he plays for this Swedish team going forward. I think they can be very lethal on their day, and I think maybe this might be a controversial view for some of the viewers. I think they are a real threat to challenge for first in this group because they're playing that same Spanish team, and they have a crucial game this in just a week or so at home against Spain, and they can get a victory there. Ooh,
yeah. Group B is shaping up very nicely, and it's between the two teams at the top, no denying that. And Spain going through a transition right now, even though they were impressive at the Euros. Listen, man, we know Sweden, we know what they're capable of doing, and even if Sweden, let's say, manages to come in second, this is not the team you want to meet in the playoffs. And you could ask Italy back in 2018 if you don't believe what I'm saying. So definitely, I do have Sweden on standby as well. I'm not sure if they got Jan Anderson, big up to Jan Anderson as well, who I think you heard about the fact that he eats a hot dog before every game or something like that.
Does he really? That's hilarious.
Yeah, I think and he has he has like the condiments, the specific condiments. He walks with it and everything. So yeah, that is a fun story. And you could fact check me if you don't believe me as well. And
I like him even more now.
Yeah, so Sweden, very interesting team, man. Talent all over the field as well. Very, very gritty outfit. But talk to me about the 2010 World Cup champions, 1982 hosts, Spain. 15-time World Cup qualification, and the heavyweights, big time.
Yeah, this might be the most difficult point to sell, but hear me out. Last World Cup qualifying cycle, we had a couple of big casualties from Europe, Italy and the Netherlands. Coincidentally, Sweden played a part in both of those teams missing that World Cup. I still believe that Spain, for the most part, struggles to break teams down. And we saw this earlier this year when they really made hard work against Greece and Georgia. They barely scraped through. They were held by the Greeks in their home ground. Even at Euro 2020, I mean, they were in contention for elimination all the way until the final match day. And they did turn it up a notch, and they put a good number of goals past the likes of Slovakia and Croatia. Arguably, they played their best game of that tournament in that semifinal against Italy. But the thing with Spain is you have guys like Alvaro Morata and Dani Olmo. They're either hot or cold. Alvaro Morata in Euro 2020 was the dictionary definition of a player that was hot or cold.
Yeah,
we saw his form was all over the place for Spain. And I'm not comfortable in saying that they're definitely going to go to Qatar. I think it just takes a little slip up against a clinical Swedish side to send them into the playoffs. I would favor them in the playoffs, of course, not even depending on who they play, but every World Cup cycle seems to have that one casualty, and I'm not making any prediction on that, but I think people need to keep an eye on Spain here because I don't know. I'm not sold on them, and that's why I have them on standby.
Yeah, it's difficult to actually say like it, and it's going to be very gutsy to say, okay, this is the big team that misses out. That's going to take a whole lot of guts. But I think standby is very, very fair because of them going through the transition. Luis Enrique playing, calling up very youthful players, and he's leaving out the veterans. Like he made a gutsy call not to take Sergio Ramos to the Euros, and it kind of paid off. They didn't really miss him, but who knows? Who knows if Sergio Ramos would have made the difference at the end and win the Euros for Spain? You never know. But you see, but there's still a little doubt around them. But I think they will qualify. This is what I think. I think they will make it, even though they go through playoffs. They have the quality, especially with Emerick Laporte at the back there now, and youngsters like Pau Torres coming through, Pedri. I think they have the quality to make it, man.
They certainly do. Also, fun fact about that Spanish squad from the summer. It was the first time, I think, in 70 years that not a single Real Madrid player got called up for that squad. Luis Enrique's been. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is crazy, man. And you also have to shout out guys like Pedri and Pau Torres, who played for their clubs the entire season, played the Euros, and went and played the Olympics for Spain and back into the new season again. These guys are stallions, man. All right, so guys, we're going to move on to Group C, where we have Italy, Switzerland, Northern Ireland, Bulgaria, and Lithuania. Talk to me about potential debutants, Lithuania.
A nice thing I'll say about Lithuania is that they are the best Baltic footballing country compared to their neighbors Estonia and Latvia, at least in recent times, I believe. But, football is not the main sport in Lithuania. They're not by any means among the best sides in Europe. I would classify them as almost like a borderline minnow. I have an invalid passport. I think that they'll be fortunate to come away with this group with a couple of wins, if that even.
Yeah, I actually have them in a valid pass, but it doesn't look like they would actually pick up many points here, because Bulgaria, very gritty team. Northern Ireland, we know. Switzerland and Italy, it will be really hard to see them getting points here. Fun fact about Lithuania: in 1998, they made it to the playoffs. They came very close. So that is something very important to note. Fact check me if you like. Go back, check 1998 World Cup qualification process, Lithuania.
Yeah, invalid passport.
Yeah. In terms of the Nations League backdoor, however, Italy has a backdoor in case they finish outside the top 2 spots. And seeing that they're high up the UEFA Nations League ranking, they have a safeguard, because you know they missed the World Cup back in 2018. So they do have the safeguard. And they are the only team from this group with the safeguard of the Nations League via the playoffs as well. So that is very important to note before we continue. Talk to me about Bulgaria, who qualified for the 1962, 66, 70, 74. Wow, a lot of pedigree there. 1994, whole lot of pedigree, where they came in 4th and last made it in 1998. Hrsko Stoikov comes to mind. Bulgaria.
Yeah, well, it is not the team that made the semifinals in 1994. That's for sure. Bulgaria, they've had a little bit of a club domestic success in the past couple of Champions League preliminary rounds with the likes of Ludogorets, Razgrad. But national team football, Bulgaria, you know, they're not among the more consistent, sturdier Eastern European outfits. It's going to be very difficult. I think they could maybe, if they turn up a notch, play spoiler to Northern Ireland in this group, but I'd be surprised if they come top 2 and make it to the playoffs. So I have them at visa denied. They're better than Lithuania. They should finish ahead of Lithuania. They should not finish higher than that.
Well said. I actually have them and miss the flight, seeing that you never know. But after what we saw at the Euros with Switzerland, yeah, Switzerland's going to definitely be top 2. So
that's the Hungarian flag.
That's the Hungarian flag. Why do I always get mixed up with the Hungarian flag and the Bulgarian flag? You know why? They have the same colors. And I did double check. Before I do that, you know. And still, I messed it up. So that's why I have Football Pharaoh. I could have actually played it off and be like, I was just testing you. But I'm just gonna keep it. I'm just gonna keep it real, man. I wasn't testing you. I messed it up. So the next team we got to talk about is Northern Ireland, who qualified for 1958, 82, last made it in 1986. They made the playoffs back in 2018. So Switzerland, ironically, were the team they lost to back in the 2018 playoffs. So they meet again. Talk to me about Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland is a capable side. I think they can make a big splash in this group. They have that extra motivation of having narrowly lost out to Switzerland on that penalty 4 years ago. A controversial penalty. Many felt it shouldn't have been awarded, and Northern Ireland were just a step away from Russia. That was off the back.
VAR.
Exactly. That was off the back of a relatively successful Euro 2016, where they made it to the second round of that tournament. Their 2 upcoming games against the Swiss is going to determine who gets that playoff spot, in my view. I don't know, though, even if they were to scrape through that, if they have the quality to come through 11 other teams in the playoffs. So I have them on miss the flight, but I don't count them out entirely.
So for Northern Ireland, I have them on miss the flight as well, along with their neighbors who they share an island with, the Republic of Ireland. So miss the flight. I guess they could hang out together in the airport, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe.
So, yeah, well, good analysis of the Northern Ireland team here. We're going to move right on to Switzerland, who have qualified for 11 out of 21 World Cups, and they hosted the World Cup back in 1954. They have qualified from 2006 to 2000. Fuck.
It's okay, dude. Don't worry.
They have qualified from 2006 to 2018, which shows that they have a lot of quality in their team. So talk to me about Switzerland.
Yeah, and they've made it past the knockout stages of the World Cup on 3 of those 4 occasions. So the round of 16 always seemed to be their barrier. But in Euro 2020, last month, they finally won their first ever knockout stage game in a major competition in many decades, actually, when they got past France. I always like to consider Switzerland as like perpetually the best of the second-tier nations in Europe. They're always there or thereabouts. They can beat anybody in the world on their best day. They've gotten famous results in recent years, like a 5-2 thumping of Belgium in the Nations League. You might remember that crazy night.
Definitely.
They drew with Brazil. They had the balls to go ahead and draw with Tite's Brazil in the World Cup 1-1. They'll be playing Italy again, who thumped them in the group stages of the Euros last month. But I think this time they might be able to give themselves a better go at it. But I ultimately expect them to finish below Italy and come in second. And I have them on standby for the playoffs.
So no chance that Switzerland go to the playoffs and blow it. Any team they meet, just blow them away and qualify directly. No chance, you think? You sure you don't want to put them in going to Qatar along with Portugal right now? You sure?
It would be a great achievement. I mean, like if they can finish first in this group and give the Italians some PTSD, send them to the playoffs again. That'd be a great
crazy.
Story.
That'd be crazy though. But the Italians are playing no games. Perfect start. They have qualified out of 18 out of 21 World Cups. They have 4 World Cup titles, but they missed the 2018 World Cup. But bounced back remarkably to win Euro 2020. This is a great story. I don't know how they pulled it off, but they did it. They did it. Roberto Mancini, I need to talk to you, bro. I need some life advice. I don't know how you did it, but that was absolutely an amazing run from start to finish. Italia. Talk to me about Italia.
I've been watching international football for about, I want to say 23, 24 years now. When I look, I know a team that is on fire, that has a fire in their belly when I see one. And Italy right now is feeling it. They're still feeling it. It's a wonderful turnaround in just the last 2.5, 3 years under Roberto Mancini, who came in and changed the collective DNA of how Italy plays. I mean, you look how they are historically. No one was really used to a more attack-minded, like high midfield pressing, suffocating tactic style of play that they implemented and have implemented since he came to manage them. But they're going to Qatar. It's gonna take hell freezing over. It's gonna take, I don't know, world peace being established for Italy to miss this World Cup. I think they should do it. They might even do it winning all their games. You know, they're on a 34-match unbeaten streak right now, and they're 2 wins away from the all-time record of a national team breaking that streak.
Well, if we look at the schedule here in September, just to take a quick look at the schedule coming up in September here, Italy play Bulgaria and then they play Switzerland. It's gonna be difficult. It is gonna be difficult to actually pull it off, and then they have Lithuania. But I think they'll do it. It's difficult, but judging from the squad I saw Mancini called up, it's pretty much the same bunch of guys with the players that, like Lorenzo Pellegrini, who missed out via injury, have been included. The team looks so damn good, and I will be surprised if they lose any games for real. They're going to Qatar, in my opinion. Just want to put that out there.
And they could, just like the U.S., be the second national team this year to win 2 trophies, because they're They have the Nations League coming up in October that they're hosting.
Yeah, man, it's gonna take a lot to beat this Italian team right now. So I'm saying Italy straight to Qatar. First class.
Yes.
So we're gonna move right on to Group D, where there's France, Ukraine, Finland, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Kazakhstan. Let us start the group by talking about potential debutants, Kazakhstan, who recently participated in AFC World Cup qualifications back in 2002. So talk to me about Kazakhstan, a Eurasia country.
Well, Kazakhstan is not Italy. I have them an invalid passport because this is not a ranking of teams in terms of like powerhouses to minnows, but also you have to take into consideration the path in front of them, like who's in their group. That's because I expect it to be a war zone between Ukraine, Finland, and Bosnia for who comes in for that playoff spot behind the French. I think it's just a mountainous task for Kazakhstan, but you know, they could be a banana peel of sorts. They drew with Ukraine earlier this year, a result that could come back to haunt Ukraine. But yeah, I mean, there's not much else to talk about the Kazakhs. Invalid passport. It's going to take a more of a while to go yet for them to really be competitive in Europe.
Well said. So France is the only team from Group D who has a Nations League place, well, into the playoffs. Well, if they place outside the top two, which I doubt would actually happen. But you never know. The ball is round, and who knows, man? They might actually shit the bed. You never know, man. They did it at the Euros, so they could do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we move on to former Yugoslavian nation Bosnia and Herzegovina, who has one World Cup appearance back in 2014, and they made the playoffs for 2010, but missed out. Talk to me about Bosnia and Herzegovina.
I have them on miss the flight. I was excited when they qualified for their maiden World Cup back in 2014. Ever since then, though, just like a lot of their Eastern European counterparts, they haven't gotten back to a major tournament. They had a really doable path for Euro 2020 via the Nations League first season. They were eliminated at home by the Northern Irish, and then they lost out eventually on that spot to Slovakia. I had high expectations for them, and I've been really disappointed the last couple of years. They've gone through a few managers as well, so there's a little bit of instability in that regard. But, I mean, they're still a side that you don't want to come up against. I mean, you don't ever want to brush them off, so I just don't think they're going to have the quality this time to make it to the playoffs, but they're not among the lowlier sides, so I don't have them in visa denied. I have no choice. I have to put them in miss the flight.
Notable mentions: Miralem Pjanic, Edin Dzeko, and Mr. Sead Kolasinac comes to mind in terms of quality players from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Yeah, so for Bosnia and Herzegovina, where do I have them? I actually have them on miss the flight as well. So Bosnia missed the flight, and we're gonna move right on. We're gonna keep the ball rolling. Let's talk about potential debutants. Finland, who made their debut at a major international tournament for the first time in Euro 2020. Talk to me about Finland.
Yeah, Finland, a really exciting team to watch their trajectory the last few years. Euro 2020 was the first time they ever made it to an international senior men's tournament in their entire 80-plus year history. And you got to give a lot of props to their manager, Marko Kanerva, for being the man who spearheaded that. And when they got to the Euros, I mean, they were not pushovers. They won their first match against Denmark, albeit we know the circumstances with Christian Eriksen. They made life difficult for Belgium. I think Belgium required 2 second-half goals to put them away. I'm interested to see where this project continues to go. I mean, they're in a group with the same French team that they beat in a friendly last year 2-0. This might be a little bit harsh on Finland, but my concern for them is that they might play the role sort of like what Wales did back in 2016 when Wales made it to an international tournament for the first time in a long time. They turned some heads, but Wales were unable to really make a case for a World Cup qualification. I have Finland on miss the flight. because I think they lack that pedigree. And I think they're lacking a little bit of that experience to really, really challenge for a spot. I wouldn't be surprised if they make it to the playoffs, but even if they did, I don't think they'll qualify. So miss the flight.
Yeah, I feel the same way too, because if you check how the group is set up right now, Ukraine got 3 points, and with Shevchenko actually parting ways with the national team, that could be an opportunity for Finland and even Bosnia to leapfrog a Ukraine who has been showing a lot of promise lately. So I think they have the capabilities to make it to the playoffs, but could they get past whichever opponent they meet in the playoffs? Finland could just be the team from Europe that debuts at the 2022 World Cup. I won't write them off completely. I'm gonna just put it out there, but I do have them as missing the flight, which takes us to Ukraine, who has one World Cup qualification back in 2006, where the aforementioned Shevchenko lit up the tournament. Talk to me about Ukraine.
Yeah, well, Shevchenko's departure, when I heard the news a couple of weeks ago, I was a little bit surprised by it. And it certainly, to some extent, throws up in the air a certain degree of, like, uncertainty. You have no idea if it's going to be a destabilizing effect or they'll be able to deal with it just fine. It's a difficult group. They meet Kazakhstan again this September. They drop points there, they're in big trouble, just in my humble opinion, because they've already dropped points to them before. You look what they did at the Euros. I think that they were a little bit lucky to make the quarterfinals after losing 2 of their 3 group stage games, but they have some talent on the squad, guys like Roman Yaremchuk, Malinovsky, they have Yarmolenko,
Konoplyanka.
Yes, Yevhen Konoplyanka. And I think that because of this and what they did earlier last year in the Nations League, they beat the likes. They claimed the scalps of Spain in their Nations League group, and they actually only got relegated because they, by forfeit, had to forfeit their last match against Switzerland because of a COVID depleted squad. I'm looking forward to see what Ukraine can do in the post Shevchenko era. I have them on standby because I think they're the second best team in this group.
Same here, though. Same here, but there's still a worry because when you look at how they're very inconsistent, you get 3 draws so far: 1 against France, World Cup holders; 1 against Finland, debutants at Euro 2020, and 1 against Kazakhstan, a team that they should actually beat. Right. So it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder what'll happen after Shevchenko. Like, there's a lot of uncertainty there. They do play Kazakhstan in this September window, and the next game is against France after that one, and then they play Finland, of course. It's gonna be a tough one, and I'm gonna put them on standby, but I'm gonna go as far as to say it's gonna be really difficult for Ukraine to qualify for the 2018 World Cup, seeing that they had such a good project going. Who knows? Maybe a managerial change could propel the project, or it could just retard the project as well.
Sure.
So I have him on standby just like you do. So the last team, man, France. Do we need to even talk about this? Do we need to? France have qualified for 15 out of 21 World Cups, won 2 World Cups back in 1998 and in 2018, the current holders, and they have been qualifying for the World Cup ever since 98 to 2018. So they're just the team to beat, man. They're full of talent, and it's hard to even picture France not going to the World Cup when you consider what they've been doing already in the group, albeit the draw against Ukraine.
Yeah, the thing with France is, I've said this before, and that being, they're the best team in the world when they want to be. When they don't funk things up and go to Funky Town, and they don't make hard work of teams that they should put away and should put away handedly. Yeah, I mean, they're going to Qatar. It'll take a total disaster for them not to. The question will be, can they prevent themselves falling susceptible to that World Cup curse with the champions? There'll be some questions over Deschamps' future between now and then, whether or not he's still the right guy to lead them.
What do you mean? What do you mean? The whole curse to happen again to them?
Yeah, I mean, look,
remember, they started it, you know.
They started it, and it would be fitting for them if they ended it 20 years later.
And look, if we learn anything from what happened at Euro 2020, it could just happen to them. Believe me.
Sure. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that defending, all the respect in the world to what Switzerland did, but that defending in the last 30 minutes was shambolic. When they went up 3-1 against the Swiss. I
actually think that's their weakness right now. If you really look at their defense, I think that's their weakness.
It could be. It could be. I mean, they're not short at all on attacking talent, especially with Karim Benzema back into the squad, having been reintegrated into it. But yeah, I mean, France, much like how Roberto Martinez, I know you mentioned Roberto Martinez being the weak link for Belgium. I just wonder whether he's still the right guy to lead this French team. He's been criticized in the past for being overtly conservative and pragmatic with the players that he has at his disposal, which is kind of crazy. I'm saying that because he is a World Cup winning manager. But that just goes to show how stacked France are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And France still has a lot of issues to work out with the players' parents and all of these nonsensical things that's going on in the camp. You know what I'm saying?
Cough, Rabio.
Yeah. Veronica Rabio. But anyways, we won't get into the politics though. Let us move right on to the next group. We got to keep the ball rolling, and we talk about Group E, where there's Belgium, the Czech Republic, Wales, Belarus, and Estonia. In terms of the Nations League backdoor, who has a backdoor into the Nations League, from the Nations League into the playoffs in case they finish outside the top two? There's Belgium, there's Wales, and there's the Czech Republic. So that is quite interesting that these teams has a lifeline. It definitely has a lifeline here. And it doesn't mean that you could go and funk around and finish third. You see what I mean? Because, for example, like Wales, they do have a very good chance because they are they are highly ranked in Group B of the Nations League, where they're 5th in the overall ranking, and the Czech Republic are they're 7th, so they're high up there. So if there's any team to actually benefit from the Nations League backdoor, it'll be Wales or the Czech Republic, Austria or Hungary, right outside the top 4 teams that most likely will make top 2. So let's just put that out there. Let's just make that clear right now. Talk to me about potential debutants most likely to make it to Qatar, Estonia.
Yeah, I have a dear friend from Estonia, actually, but I can't be lenient for that, and leniency there shall not be. Invalid passport for Estonia. There's not really much to say. They might finish this group with 0 points for all I know.
You know what you could add to that one? Ragnar Klavan.
Well, he's a legend.
Yeah,
for them.
And there's also a team from Estonia that just qualified for the Conference League, being the first club to qualify to a European competition as well. And the name isn't coming to me right now, but I have the name right now. I want to give you guys the name because this is very, very important to just add. And that club goes by the name, I'll get it for you right in any second, FC Flora Tallinn. FC Flora Tallinn. So that's a little golden nugget for the folks watching who like that type of stuff.
Here's another golden nugget.
Wait. I love golden nuggets. Give it to me. Tell me.
Estonia, oddly enough, came very close to qualifying for Euro 2012. They made it to the playoffs narrowly, where they lost out to the Republic of Ireland. So that's a fun bit of information.
Thank you. I'm going to add that to my collection of golden nuggets. And we're going to move right on to Belarus, who are potential debutants as well, and who came very close in 2002, but they barely missed out on a playoff spot. That's the closest they ever came. Talk to me about Belarus, where I know you have about 10 girlfriends from Belarus, right?
Oh, God. Imagine. Well, cool flag. I believe I have Belarus at visa denied. I have them, the former Soviet state, I have them as a level above the Estonians, certainly. And I think that they could make... They could maybe play spoiler to one of the Czechs or Wales to drop points, but since 3 teams in this group have the Nations League safeguard, it might not really matter at that point. I don't really have much else to say about Belarus. Didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, Alexander Hleb, he was a famous Belarusian international. He
I think so, but I can't remember. Why can't I find the Belarus flag here? Where is it? Did it disappear?
Top row.
Oh no, it's right here. Oh God, it's hiding. Where do you have him?
I have him at visa denied.
Visa denied. I do know Alexander Hleb, you know. I do know the player, but you know, sometimes when you need the information, you just can't get the freaking information, man. So Alexander Hleb, yep, Belarus, man. Belarus, former Arsenal man. Barcelona as well. Bate Borisov, you know what I'm saying? And actually, Hleb was playing for Bate up until all 2019, so big up to Hleb, man. Definitely a legendary football player. He's currently 40 years old. So good one, man. Good one. Good one. Another good one, man. Another good one. So for Estonia and Belarus, for me, I have, let me tell you where I have. I actually have, let me see. Belarus, I do have in visa denied. And for Estonia, pretty sure I have Estonian invalid passport. I may have forgot to actually rank Estonia. I can't find Estonia on my list right now. One of the teams that eluded me. Maybe they'll just qualify for the World Cup after all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a sign.
So that's definitely a sign. So we're going to move on to the next team, and that's Wales. Gareth Bale of Wales, who qualified in weird circumstances back in 1958 when they already had missed out on UEFA qualification, but was picked out of a hat to come up against Israel, who came through to the playoffs because none of the other teams wanted to play against them. The Islamic nations, they refused to play against Israel, and Wales became, you know, they benefited from that, qualified for 1958, but we have never ever seen them back since. Talk to me about Wales, man.
You know, Wales were very disappointed to not at least make the playoffs last time around after making it to the last 4 in Euro 2016. They missed out on the final match day for World Cup qualifying to the Irish. In a game, they only needed a draw at home to make it to the latter round, the playoffs.
The luck of the Irish.
Well, they could use some of that luck now. Wales, yeah, the 5th best Nations League team, the best one outside of League A. They ran roughshod over their group, 16 out of 18 points. They got that protection in place no matter where they finish in this group, but I still like them to come in a top 2 or 3 position, and they could make a serious case this time for making it back to their first World Cup in, I think, over 60 years. I have them on standby.
Same here. You can't. You have to put them on standby because of the Nations League loophole. So definitely they're on standby. They're a team that has potential, big potential to make it to Qatar. So once you're on standby, man, you have a chance to get on the flight. You know that. As long as there's room, you could get on the flight. So we know Wales have a lot of talent in Gareth Bale, Aaron Ramsey, and a few up-and-coming youngsters. and they have Hennessy in goal as well. So if you have Hennessy, man, listen, you just give some Hennessy to your opponents and you walk the ball in the back of the net. You're good. So I think Wales would be fine, man. Could they make it through from the playoffs? Yes, they can. We know they have quality. They've shown glimpses of their quality at the Euros as well. Are they gonna do it? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. If you're sure, let us know in the comment section down below. And we are going to move right on to the next team. Very, very impressive team as well, who also has that Nations League cushion via the playoffs. And that's the Czech Republic, who qualified in 2006 as the Czech Republic. And they have always competed in World Cup qualifiers. Talk to me about the Czechs. Jaroslav Silhavi's Czech Republic. It's hard to say. You think about Miroslav, I think about Miroslav Klose. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, Slavic names can be a little difficult to pronounce. The Czech Republic. I also have them on standby. They've been promoted just like Wales from League B into League A. Had a somewhat impressive European Championship. They knocked out Frank de Boer's Dutch side 2-0 in the round of 16. That was perhaps the biggest after Switzerland beating France, maybe the biggest upset of the round. And they're proving to be a side that is difficult to beat. I remember, the Czech Republic side of 2006. That was like during the last days of their golden generation, which had started in the mid-90s. They got some really, enticing players to keep an eye on. Patrick Schick, he finished joint top goal scorer at the Euros along with Cristiano Ronaldo. Thomas Souček, this guy, super sub Holes. I'm not sure. Holes. Yeah.
Kufal, Vladimir Kufal. They have a lot of very, very good talent in their team. We don't even need to go through all the names, but if you were 2020 taught us anything, is that the Czechs are not to be effed with. They'll check you. And this is chess, not checkers. Checkmate that ass, okay? So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. So yeah. I do have them on standby as well. So listen, that team is a hell of a team, man. I won't be surprised if they make it back.
Yeah, it's always good to have Eastern European representation at the World Cup, and right now they're among the strongest contenders to be, representing that region at Qatar, I think.
Well said. Let us talk about the last team in this group, Belgium, who also has a cushion if they place outside the top two, which is very, very unlikely. They have qualified for 13 out of 21 World Cups, and they placed third in 2018. Talk to me about Roberto Martinez's Belgium, or I should say Belgium, with Roberto Martinez just acting. He's just an actor. Thank God they got that cushion of the Nations League. They're really going to need it in this group. They're underdogs, and they're going to need that and prayers to come through. Now, look, much like France, I think the question for Belgium is all going to be about what the hell are they going to do once they get to Qatar. They should get to Qatar. They actually did drop points so far against the Czechs earlier this year. I still expect them to I told you all about them Czechs, man.
Yes, you did.
You come to the door, they'll check you.
Belgium, the question for them is like, okay, can this golden generation that's starting to wane a little bit, can they finally go on and win something? Can they do it? Can they just, instead of just becoming a side that is consistently beating up on teams and qualifying, can they beat the powerhouse nations in world football? They did get that win in the World Cup quarterfinal against Brazil, where they ultimately finished with the bronze in that tournament, including a couple of wins over England, if my memory serves me correct. But can they win the World Cup next year? If they want to build themselves, the FIFA rankings have them as #1 in the world. I think it's ludicrous.
They would need to hire Pep Guardiola to win the World Cup or something.
It's crazy how different they look when Kevin De Bruyne is on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, I know he wasn't 100% fit this summer, but when he wasn't on, I think he was missing for large stretches of that match against Portugal, right?
Yeah, he's the key man. He's the glue.
Oh yeah, they looked miserable in that match. I mean, they needed a strike from Torgan Hazard from distance, and they held on for dear life for the rest of it. I mean, he's the anchor of that team. I mean, like. But anyway.
Even going back to the World Cup, though, Kevin De Bruyne was the man. And interestingly, they were the team that I followed at the World Cup, Belgium. And that was my team. And it was a very good run all the way to the semi-final where they missed out against France, of course. And is this Belgium team going to win anything? Not under Roberto Martinez. As I say, they will have to hire Pep Guardiola as their manager in order to win something. Other than that, they're not winning nothing. Believe me. And I've learned from the freaking Euro 16, from the 2018 World Cup. You know, I've learned. I've really learned.
Well, maybe they can win.
And Euro 2020, I thought they were gonna win that damn thing. They had a great chance and they messed up, man.
Maybe they could win the Nations League. You never know.
Getting a little passionate here. They're not winning that either. Not with Italy in it.
Yes, they're going to Qatar though. I have them on.
Yeah.
The upper category.
Yeah, they will go to Qatar. Fun fact: I have a golden nugget for you. I have 2 golden nuggets. You put Czech Republic in standby, which means that they could make the playoffs. The Czech Republic qualified for the World Cup back in 2006 when they won their playoffs versus Norway, who ironically has not qualified since 1998. We will get to Norway soon. One more golden nugget for you. I know you're going to love this one. Belgium has not lost the World Cup qualifying match since the 2010 World Cup qualifying cycle.
Yeah, that's a spicy nugget there too. That's a impressive stat.
Let that one digest though. But we're going to move on to Group F, where there's Denmark, Scotland, Israel, Austria, Faroe Islands, and Moldova. 6 teams in a group, and it's going to start winding down right now. In terms of the Nations League cushion, who has one in this group? So you just take a look at the list, and then there's Austria. They have one. There's the Faroe Islands. They have one as well. But it's gonna take something special for them to actually benefit from that Nations League place. I doubt they'll even. That's insignificant. So talk to me about Moldova. Moldova, man.
Well, many of you know that Sheriff Tiraspol, a club from Moldova, just recently qualified for the Champions League group stages for the first time ever, really putting Moldovan football on the map. The national team, though, I consider to be among the minnows in European football. I have them at invalid passport. I don't think they're really going to do anything in this group, despite the fact that there's no real powerhouse in this group. They could finish ahead of maybe the Faroe Islands. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about Moldova.
Yeah, neither do I, man. You said it. Nothing to add, man. Big up to Moldova, man. Big up to Sheriff for making it to the Champions League, defeating Dinamo Zagreb there. And all the best in that group against Real Madrid, Inter, and Shakhtar. All the best. Let's see what you can do.
Absolutely.
Shut him up. Shut him up. Shut him down. So, look, Moldova has 5 out of 61. They have won 5 out of 61 games during World Cup qualification matches. So that's just a fun fact there. The Faroe Islands, they have won 7 out of 70 as well. They're potential debutants. Do you think your islands, the Faroe Islands that belong to you, and I saw you with the deed. I saw you with the deed. Do you think that you, being the Presidente, El Presidente, Do you think, or the Prime Minister, as you said, when we spoke about, when I saw you at the D, do you think that you guys would actually qualify for the World Cup this time around?
Yeah, well, I certainly rate their odds higher than Egypt. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I don't know. Egypt doesn't give me any damn hope, man. But well, the Faroe Islands, yeah, like you say, big up to them. They got promoted into League C of the Nations League. They topped their group undefeated. They are, like, I like to classify them along with Luxembourg as one of the more improved teams in Europe. They're trying to escape that status of being a minnow, and you always love to see that. It's a country that only has, like, I think 55,000 people in it, located halfway between Scotland and Iceland. So you always like to see new teams rise up and shed that sort of, like, lowly status. I have an invalid passport just because I think that there's the 4 other teams in this group that we'll get to in a moment are leaps and bounds ahead of them right now. So yeah, that's where I have them.
Yeah, same here. I do have Moldova and Faroe Islands in invalid passport, just like Football Pharaoh. So we're going to move right on. We're going to keep the ball rolling. Let's talk about Austria, who does have a spot in the Nations League ranking there in case they place outside the top 2, where they are one of the teams right now. If qualifiers are to be over right now, they would get into the playoffs. They are 4th. They have qualified for 7 out of 21 World Cups, and their last appearance is in 1998. Talk to me.
I think you have to put Austria on standby. Not just because of that Nations League playoff cushion, but because they've finally are showing signs of a team that has been coming into their own after teasing us for the last 5-6 years of being a dark horse. Pretty okay run in Euro 2020. They won 2 out of the 3 group games. They pushed eventual champions Italy, who might be the most informed best national team in the world right now, currently, to extra time. They gave Italy one of their toughest games in that tournament, and who knows, if Marcel Sabitzer doesn't miss that sitter, or if that goal that they scored that was ruled off from VAR was held, ooh boy, you could be looking at an entirely different narrative from that tournament.
Maybe they would have gone on to win the whole thing.
You never say never. I don't rate Franco Foda, as a manager. You alluded to this once before. You think that he sometimes makes some weird substitutions, puts some players out of position on the pitch. But yeah, I mean, they on paper, in my view, are the second best team in this group. They have the playoff, even if they don't come second. They have to be under consideration for standby.
Well said, well said. I don't have this written down, but I'm going to give you a golden nugget. About 95% of the Austrian team plies their trade in the German Bundesliga. And it means that they do have a quality outfit. But if the majority of the team play in the Bundesliga, it means that they do play at a slower pace. And when they meet the more quality oppositions, they could get found out. And we saw that a lot at the Euros, and it's only when Franco Foda came to his senses and stopped playing Alaba as a center back. I don't think Alaba is a center back. He's a very attacking player, attack-minded player who needs to play as a left wing back or as an attacking midfielder. And that's how you're gonna get the best out of Alaba in the Austrian system. Maybe not for his club teams, but in the Austrian system, oh man, the man is very, very influential, and they have hordes of talent all across the field that we're not going to get into right about now. It will take a day and a half to go through their talent pool, because they are a talented outfit, but they just have to fulfill their potential, and they look good at the Euros. Let me just put it out there. So for Austria, I definitely have them on standby as well. So the next team that we're going to talk about, 3rd place right now, Israel. 1970 they qualified. They have been very competitive in UEFA, And prior to joining UEFA, they have been kind of bouncing around, man. They were in the OFC, they were in the OFC, believe it or not, Oceania Confederation at one time. And they actually joined the OFC after they were expelled by the AFC from the Islamic nations in Asia, not wanting to play against Israel. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? Israel, man, the birthplace of Jesus Christ.
Israel, yes. Wow, that blows my mind. I had no idea they played against like Oceanian team. Can you imagine the traveling? That's brutal. Oh my gosh.
But they had no choice with the traveling though, because if teams are refusing to play you, you have no choice. You want to play football. You want to play World Cup qualifiers. You see what I mean? Yeah. So,
well, Israel. I have Israel on. Where did I put them here? Missed the flight. They're a team that they tease to
go ahead and express your love for Aaron Zahavi. I'm waiting.
Yeah, I do love Aaron Zahavi, and let's just say I really loved that day where he put a hat trick against Slovakia to turn that result around for Israel. You know, Israel actually almost made it to the playoffs at the 2006 World Cup qualifying. They are, I would say, like in a similar vein to how we mentioned before, the Caucasus nations. They're a very difficult side to play, especially at home. I would put them a level above like the likes of Georgia and Azerbaijan, etc. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they beat Austria not too long ago in a fixture? I don't know if it was in qualification for something else or in a friendly, but
not sure.
They're good enough to play spoiler to prevent one of these teams from making it to the playoffs. I think that, you know, Scotland or Austria go away to Tel Aviv. They play there. They drop points. I would put them at visa denied if the group was a little bit more difficult, but it's a relatively well-rounded group in my view. So I have them at miss the flight. I think that they're still not yet where they need to be to break through and qualify for a tournament within UEFA. They kind of suffer from the Kazakhstan effect in that regard. They would probably thrive more if they were still in Asia. But yeah, no, they're always an interesting side to watch. They're always very sturdy, and you can never ever underestimate them because they will take points off of you.
Well said, man. And also young and upcoming talent Manos Salomon, who plays for Shakhtar Donetsk, is worth mentioning. They have 4 points right now, and they did pick up a draw in Tel Aviv against Scotland, and then the other points came against Moldova on the road, where they smashed them 4-1. So Israel, the group is not the strongest group, so you can't really write them off. Let's say Scotland do not pick up points, and let's say Israel do pick up the points against Faroe Islands and Moldova like they're supposed to. You could see a situation where they end up in the playoffs. You cannot write them off. You really cannot write them off. As we know, Austria, they have that Nations League opportunity as well, where if they miss out on the first 2 places, they can qualify via the Nations League. So for Israel, miss the flight sounds just about right, but I won't be surprised if they squeeze into the playoffs. Let's talk about Scotland, who qualified for 8 out of 21 World Cups, and they last made it in 1998. They have been competitive though, but still missed out on every World Cup for the last 20 years. Talk to me, Scotland.
Well, congratulations to Scotland and the Tartan Army for making it back to a international tournament for Euro 2020, their first ever since, like you mentioned, World Cup 98. You know, this might be a little bit harsh on Scotland, but I think they're going to regret really. I don't know if you remember this. They had a sizable lead in the Nations League group, and then they lost their last 2 match days where they needed only 1 point to secure first. They would have had that Nations League cushion that.
Wait, didn't they have? I could remember them being in a group with Albania. Am I thinking about the same?
That's not the first. That was the first.
Oh, yeah. That was the first one, yeah.
The second one, they had the Czechs in their group, and the Czechs came from behind the final couple match days because Scotland
as I told you, bro, many times, UEFA frauded me out with the Nations League when they changed the format.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't really for the first Nations League, I was so hyped up. The second one, not so much, to be honest.
Same.
Because they had no reason to change the format after just one cycle. It was ridiculous. And it's all because of money. It's because some teams got knocked out of A and they had to save them to go again. So whatever, man. Whatever you
Yeah.
for.
But yeah, no, I was bummed about the change too. It made it so much more predictable because I remember when they moved to 16 groups, I remember I got 14 out of 16 of the group winners correct, and then the first edition of the Nations League only got like 9 out of 16 of winners. Because, like you said, it protected like the big teams. It prevented them from getting relegated. It made it almost impossible for the lowlier teams to be promoted. You know, so it was BS. It was BS.
Tell me about it.
Going back to Scotland, I do think they're going to regret not getting that Nations League spot. You know, I haven't missed the flight because even if they do make the playoffs, I don't like their odds against any of the other sides, and I put them below Austria. So
same here, missed the flight in my opinion. And last but not least in the group, man, Denmark. What a team! Qualified for 5 out of 21 World Cups. They were last there at the 2018 event as well. Talk to me about the Danes, man.
I am 100% on the Danish hype train. As I mentioned in my one of my group previews before the Euro started, this is a team that has cultivated an identity of being very difficult to beat. They had only lost one competitive game since the fall of 2016, and that was in the Nations League against Belgium, the same Nations League group where they picked 4 points off of England. And, you know, despite the fact of suffering that scare that we all went through with Christian Eriksen this summer, the European Championship, they still somehow were able to use that, and it galvanized them to go on a run to the semifinals. They are a very lethal side on their day, and with the likes of players like, you know, Kasper Dolberg and Mikkel Damsgaard, Kasper Schmeichel in goal. They're already on 9 points, and this is not the most challenging group. They could go on to top this group very comfortably and end up, if you look at the FIFA rankings, it could end up being seeded if certain results go their way. And what I really respect about Denmark, Dominic, is the fact that when Oga Harita left, Kasper Hjulmand picked up the mantle from it, and it was still smooth sailing from there. Like, they're still riding high, and I think they're definitely going to Qatar.
Same here, man. I have them as going to Qatar. And one thing I like to add is I would absolutely love to see maybe next year, early next year, the last couple games for World Cup qualifiers. I would love to see Christian Eriksen run out and, you see what I'm saying, and take the field. That would be awesome, man. That would be awesome for football. That would be a great moment.
It would. I'm glad we didn't lose him, honestly, and hopefully his health will let him play one day again.
Yeah, so I think I did read that he was back training with Inter. I don't know the extent of his training, but I'm just happy that it didn't end up with him dying on the field that day, because that was scary, man.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. So we have 4 groups to go through, and let's make it happen. Group G: Turkey, Netherlands, Montenegro, Norway, Latvia, and Gibraltar. In terms of teams with the Nations League cushion, let's just run through the list and see if we have any of those here. Yes, we do. We have Montenegro down in League C with a cushion there, and Gibraltar with a cushion as well. Just to note, the other teams do not have a cushion, so they got to be very careful not to finish outside the top 2 or it's kaputs. So talk to me about Gibraltar.
Well, you know, Gibraltar, they're playing the long game there. They're banking on that Nations League spot, and you never know, they could just slide in there. Can you imagine that? Imagine if things just went crazy and they just somehow found themselves in the playoffs. But it might be mathematically impossible.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, Gibraltar's an invalid passport. I do have a lot of respect for Gibraltar, though. They haven't been a member of UEFA for long, but they've gotten a couple of impressive results. They beat Latvia, 1-0 in a friendly back in 2018. They even beat Armenia in the Nations League, the first edition of the Nations League as well. In the first season, they beat them 1-0 or 2-1. Yeah. I mean, there's not much to say about Gibraltar.
Didn't they? They played against one of the Irish teams they played against and did score a goal or give them a run for their money, if I could remember, in the Nations League.
Not in the Nations League, because they would have played other minnows. But
no, it's not the Nations League. It's not the Nations League. But it was one of them. It was they were. Let's just say it was impressive.
Yes.
Let's just say they have been impressive. And something to note is that Lincoln Red Imps, the club from Gibraltar, qualified for I think it was the Conference League, becoming the first team from Gibraltar to make it to a European competition.
I heard about that. Yes, that's very cool stuff. Very cool stuff.
But still, invalid passport. Same here.
Cool flag though.
Yeah, and let us move on to the next team here, Latvia, who are potential debutants, and interestingly, for the 2010 World Cup cycle, Football Pharaoh, they came third in World Cup qualifiers. They almost made it to the playoffs. I actually fact-checked it myself, and I was like, did I write down the right thing? Yeah, they did. I think they missed out by like 1 point or so. Latvia, that is to note. That's a golden nugget for you. Want to talk golden nuggets? I'm throwing one your way.
Yeah, that certainly is. They also, Latvia, believe it or not, they participated at Euro 2004. They drew with, I believe, Germany 0-0 in the group stages of that tournament. Fucking incredible result. Yeah. I have Latvia invalid passport. I think they are still a minnow in European football. I don't think they're going to come through this group. Well, I especially don't think they're going to come through this group. But yeah, no, I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah, so for the 2010 World Cup cycle, they played 10 matches. They won 5, drew 2, and lost 3. So they didn't do too bad at all. They didn't do too bad. And I want to give you guys the information, you know what I'm saying? I want to give you guys the correct information just so you have that insight as well. So just wait right up. I want to let you guys know exactly who they place behind Greece, who made it to the playoffs. They picked up 17 points in the group, 3 points behind Greece. So that's the closest they ever came to making it to the World Cup. That is very, very important because we don't just want to, okay, Latvia, bye. You see what I'm saying? Invalid passport or whatever, and just keep it moving. I don't want to approach it that way. And
that's and that's a great achievement. I didn't know that. Like 17 points. That's like wow. Yeah. Congrats.
You have them in invalid passport or visa denied? Invalid
passport.
Yeah, I actually have them in visa denied. Probably invalid passport, but you know what? I'm the agent here. I'm gonna just deny you the visa. You do have a passport, but you're not going to Qatar. Visa denied. And we're gonna keep it moving. Norway, who made it in 1938, 94, and 1998. They're on 6 points. This group is well poised. Talk to me about Norway.
Norway, yes, the one Scandinavian nation.
Wait, did you? Sorry to interrupt you. Did you say no way they're making it to Qatar? No way? Is that what you just said?
No, I said yeah, Norway. Yeah, Norway. Yes, way. Yeah. So the only Scandinavian country that didn't play in the last World Cup, their neighbors and cultural counterparts, Iceland, Sweden, and Denmark, did. I think Norway has a couple of, maybe possibly on the verge of a very, very promising golden generation, the likes of Erling Haaland, Alexander Sorloth, They missed out on the Euros in both 2016 and for 2020 via the playoffs on both occasions. They're in a difficult group. I mean, the Netherlands did not get off to a stellar start. Turkey are looking like they might bottle a great start. I don't want to get too deep into them. We'll talk about them momentarily. I have Norway on standby. I think that they could get to the playoffs. I considered putting them on miss the flight because I am skeptical of their overall quality of getting past those two teams that they'll meet in the playoffs. But I have them on standby because of the fact that the other two main opponents have not been convincing. Who knows? They could be the surprise group winners of this qualification.
Exactly. 6 points right now. Montenegro has 6. The Netherlands have 6. And Turkey has 7. And judging from what Turkey did at the Euros, man, I don't know. I don't know anymore about Turkey, man. So Norway, I do have them on standby as well. And, you think of Martin Odegaard, Haaland, and these really good talented players coming through. They could be a real threat. And it's really hard to write them off, especially with that kid Erling Haaland, man. This guy's a beast. So we're going to move right on to Montenegro, Black Mountains. And their potential debutants, they didn't do too bad last time around in the 2018 World Cup cycle. They have been competing every time in World Cup qualifiers, I did notice. What do you make of Montenegro?
Well, because I think this group is going to be a three-way knife fight between Norway, Netherlands, and Turkey. I do rate Montenegro as a side that are, like Israel in the previous group, can play spoiler. They have, I believe, 6 points already in this group.
Yeah, and they do have a Nations League ranking. They do have that cushion as well in case it comes down to that. They can get in via the Nations League in the playoffs. So that is something to actually note for Montenegro as well. And seeing that they actually on 6 points to start. Remember, we are going from where they're at, and even if we were doing this when every team was on 0 points, it would have been you have to look at it like they're on 0 points, like all the teams on 0 points. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So continue.
Where are they ranked in the Nations League as far as group winners?
Well, in terms of group winners, they actually ranked 6th outside the top 4. Well, they ranked 10th, but if you want to take out the top 4, you could say 6, because I'm pretty certain the top 4 teams will make it, and it would actually make it. I think they do have a little chance of making it via the playoffs, just a little bit.
An outside chance of making it to the playoffs, right?
But not to cut you, you could also consider their strength. Are they good enough to go through the playoffs and make it directly for the World Cup? You see what I'm saying? Yeah, right. So
I would still put them at visa denied. That might be a little harsh. This is actually one of the harder rankings, but I have them at visa denied because
ruthless.
It's a bit ruthless. I just think that in order for them, if we're talking strictly about like the top 2 position, they're gonna need 2 of the Dutch, the Norwegians, and the Turks to falter for them to capitalize on that. And I don't see that happen. I could certainly see one of them. Like, it's looking like Turkey might be the strongest candidate for that. And then for the playoffs, they're going to need a little bit of luck to go their way if they're going to be one of the best group winners to make it into the next round for the last 3 spots. So I put them at visa denied. But look, I'm not writing them off entirely. I think they could play spoiler, just like Israel.
Well said.
That's a hard ranking. It's a hard ranking.
I know, but I do agree with you in terms of Montenegro. I'm gonna be nice and put them on miss the flight just to give them a chance, seeing that they're currently competing in the group. So I'm gonna say miss the flight for Montenegro. Let's move on to Netherlands. This one is to be a tricky one. where they have qualified for 10 out of 21 World Cups. That's a clear indication how inconsistent they have been over time. And they have made it to 3 World Cup finals without winning a single one, which is a very, very, very strange fact here. Very strange. 3 World Cup finals, no wins. Talk to me about the Dutch, who did miss the 2018 World Cup and placed 3rd at 2014.
After Spain, this might be my most controversial take. I don't think they're guaranteed to make it to Qatar. I do trust Louis van Gaal as to be an adequate replacement, taking over from Frank de Boer after him being sacked after the untimely exit in the Euros. We saw what he did back for the Netherlands in 2014 with low expectations, brought that Dutch team all the way to the semis where they finished with the bronze. So that was one of the more one of the greater like patchwork managerial jobs in recent memory. You know, the Netherlands are, I think, by considerable margin the best team in this group, not just as a unit, but individually. But the thing is, like, they were thumped by Turkey in that first match. And we just don't know for sure, like, how they're going to look coming into this fall, their games. Maybe that Louis van Gaal will have enough time to turn this squad around. You know, ever since Ronald Koeman left for Barcelona last year, they never looked right since then. It was a night and day difference. Because of that, and because I think it's going to be really contentious between Norway and Turkey and them, I have them on standby. That's a bit ruthless.
Yeah, I know. That is very ruthless. I actually have the Netherlands on qualifying, on making their comeback to the World Cup. And I'm going to give you one reason. I'm going to give you one reason. Just one. I won't be long. I'm not going to elaborate and talk about this squad or anything. I'm going to give you one reason this team is making it to the World Cup. Virgil van Dijk. Once that man is fit, once he is fit, thou shall not pass. Enough said.
That's a fair reason.
Enough said. Enough said. And I don't want to be too long on the Dutch, but I think them bringing back Louis van Gaal is a clear message, clear statement that they are not funking around here and they want to make it back to the grand event, because it was a disastrous 2018 campaign in terms of the qualifiers. That was that one, along with the Netherlands, the Italian miss, and the USA and Chile. Those send shockwaves through the football world, man. And I don't mean to remind the Americans and the Chileans here, though, but still,
they want to make it back, and they want to be not just do it. They want to be contenders.
Exactly.
This Euro result for them very disappointed them, and I know a lot of Dutch people I interact with on Twitter and Reddit. They're pissed off. They're really angry. They're really angry about this.
Last but not least, in Group G, let us talk about Turkey, who has only made it to 2 World Cups, 1954 and in 2002, where they placed 3rd under their current manager, Şenol Güneş, who took them to the Euros very impressively, started off World Cup qualifying very impressively, but were absolutely garbage at Euro 2020. Just want to put that out there. Talk to me.
Let me ask you something, Dominic. Do you like turkey hot or cold?
I actually like my turkey sandwich cold cut.
Okay. Maybe this Turkish outfit will be to your liking. Now, I like both hot turkey and cold turkey, but hot turkey usually for Thanksgiving only. Well, look, it was a miserable European Championship for them. They finished 24th out of 24th in the standings, dead last, even behind North Macedonia. 0 points, 1 goal scored, 9 goals conceded. 9 goals conceded. However, they did get off to a good start here, beating their 2 most immediate competitors in this group, both the Norwegians and the Dutch. They could be sitting on 9 points right now, but they dropped to Latvia. They dropped a 2-goal lead to Latvia that ended 3-3.
You see, like, I think that was actually a sign If we had taken that sign, we would not have talked up their Euro chances of them getting out the group if we had taken that sign of dropping points to Latvia. You see what I'm saying? After what they did to the Dutch to kick things off. So the team, I think, is very inconsistent, man.
Oh yeah, they're all over the place. You can't trust them. Turkey's certainly not a side that I trusted. Even going back to when I remember qualifying for Euro 2020, they went undefeated against world champions France. They drew them in Paris, they beat them in Turkey, and they barely put away, I think, Andorra 1-0. They needed a goal in the 90th minute to beat Andorra. So Turkey, you can't trust them. You never know what you're going to get for sure with them. So because they got off to a decent start, yeah, they dropped to Latvia. It portended that they were going to not do so well in the Euros. I still want to see, before I put them in miss the flight, I still want to see more from them to see if it's a long-term trend. So I have them on standby for now.
Yeah, Turkey, they're a tricky team, man. They're a very tricky team, but I'm gonna put them on. I have them on standby as well, and just for golden nugget here. You want it? You want the golden nugget or what?
Definitely.
All right, I got two for you here. Turkey, they missed out on the World Cup in 2006 when they lost the playoff 4-4 on the away goal rule to Switzerland. And in 2002, they did qualify to the World Cup via the playoffs by beating Austria. So they're a playoff type team, basically.
Yeah.
Basically. And that will do it for Group G. We got to move right on. We have to keep the ball rolling. And let us talk about Group H, where we have 2018 World Cup finalists, Croatia. The World Cup hosts in 2018, Russia, Slovakia, Cyprus, Slovenia, and a cold drink of Malta. Look.
We love those.
I love those, man. I love me some Vitamalt. So, yeah. Love me the Vitamalt, man. So look, who benefits from the Nations League in terms of getting into the playoffs here? Let me just take a look at the list right now, and Slovenia is on the list. So shout out to Slovenia, who are actually ranked 33rd in League C. They're on the list, and they are the only team from this group that are on the list. So yeah. Okay, I checked the list and I checked it twice. So, Slovenia. Talk to me about Malta, though. Potential debutants. Yeah, potential debutants, Malta.
Well, this group is interesting because you have 4 Slavic nations and you have the 2 European Mediterranean island countries. Malta, I have an invalid passport. However, they have shown that they are not to be taken lightly in this group. They actually took a 2-0 lead over Slovakia in one of these qualifying games earlier this spring before Slovakia had to rebound and take a draw from that fixture, which could really come back to hurt them. Yeah, Malta, look, I don't know very much about Malta. I have them at invalid passport. They're still a minnow in Europe. They're not doing great things like the likes that we've seen the Faroes do or we've seen Luxembourg do. So I have them at invalid passport. Maybe they'll finish ahead of Cyprus, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think I'm about to write visit Malta on my bucket list. That'll be a nice place to just go chill, lay low. You wonder where I'm at? You can't find me? I'm in Malta, baby. So we're gonna move right on, and let's talk a bit about Slovenia, though, who are actually 5th in the group right now. They qualified for the 2002 and the 2010 World Cup, and they actually this is 2 out of 7 tries. They actually qualified for the World Cup, so not bad at all. Not bad.
So Slovenia, they reached a really low point in the First Nations League where they were relegated down to League D. D as in dog.
Yeah,
that was bad.
That is bad, yeah.
And I believe they were the only non-micro state, or among the only few one of the few non-microstates to be relegated into League D. That was a really low point for them. In the last Nations League, they showed signs of maybe being a little bit on the upswing. They got promoted. They were actually saved from the change in format, so they were elevated to League C because of the change that UEFA did. They topped their group ahead of Greece and Kosovo. They actually now are going to be in League B. B as in boy for the next edition. I just say that because sometimes my letters.
They better not play like boys in the group, though. Let's just put that out there, too.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I have them miss the flight. I think because the group doesn't have a powerhouse in it. I don't consider Croatia a powerhouse. And because of the fact that Croatia and Russia, they have their days where they don't look very convincing. But if they were to get to the playoffs, Slovenia, I'm just not convinced they could get through that. So miss the flight, I think, is fair.
Well said, well said. Golden nugget here on Slovenia. They beat Russia in the 2010 World Cup qualifiers playoffs, and they actually missed the last 5 Euros as well. So yeah, and I did have that they had Nations League promotion from C to B. So good stuff by Slovenia there. I think they are currently managed by Matthias Kek.
I think he came back for another stint. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what I mean. So big up to Matthias Kek, who I did discover while following a bit of Croatian football back in 2018. I could remember. So yeah, Matthias, my boy Matthias, baby. Oh, let me just double check and make sure Matthias is currently. Yep, Matthias Kek is in. Oh man. Yo, your boy Dom is on point. He's on fire right now. Could you call the fire department to put me out, please? I'm on fire. I'm on absolute fire right now. So, look, another fun fact. 2006, Russia missed the playoffs on goal difference to Slovakia, who then lost the playoffs to Spain. And in 1998, they lost the playoffs to Italy as well, which takes us not to Slovakia, but to Cyprus. Let's talk a bit about Cyprus here before we move on to Slovakia. Talk to me about Cyprus.
So Cyprus, I have Cyprus on visa denied. I put them a class above Malta. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you have the stat there. Didn't they beat Slovenia? I think they already picked up 3 points on the likes of Slovenia in this group already.
Yes, they did beat Slovenia.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I have a term.
They have 4 points. They have 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss. They actually picked up points. They picked up a point off Slovakia, and they beat Slovenia. So, yeah, they're proving to be a thorn. And I mean, look, they could prove to be very devastating to any of these other sides. Their prospects of coming through and getting to the playoffs, they can have their hopes dashed by this Cypriot team. But you know, Cyprus, they're still a side that should not be challenging for contention to qualify. So yeah, visa denied for Cyprus. Yeah, man. So the Cypriots, you would have to prove Football Fair wrong if you are to qualify for the 2022 World Cup. Let's move on to Slovakia, where they qualified in 2010. Talk to me about Slovakia. That's when I actually discovered Marek Hamšík, and he is still around, playing for Slovakia. Talk to me.
I haven't missed the flight. Credit to them. You know, they picked up a victory against Poland in Euro 2020, a group that a lot of people thought they would be whipping boys in. Ultimately, though, after a disastrous couple of own goals by their goalkeeper, Dubravka, against Spain, it was their undoing, and they weren't able to advance as one of the best third-place teams. But I just think that Slovakia, even if they were to come through this, if they play a Sweden or a Switzerland or a Ukraine, on their day, sure, they could come through that and defy expectations like they did by making it to a second successive European Championship. But you wouldn't want to put your money on it, I think. And I think miss the flight is a fair criteria.
Well said, well said. I don't have much to add about Slovakia, but I know they're a very, very tough unit to play. And just like their neighbors, Czech Republic, they could be very tricky on their day, man. This group just have so many teams that they could be world beaters on their day, and on another day they would lose to teams like Cyprus. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And the same goes for Croatia. The same goes for Russia that we're gonna get into right about now. So definitely missed the flight. Where did I actually put them? I have them on Mr. Flight as well, along with Slovenia. So let's talk about the 2018 hosts, Russia. Interestingly though, before I do talk about that, as Russia, not the Soviet Union, they qualified from 94, 2002, 2014, and hosted it in 2018, where they qualified automatically. Russia has been banned for the 2022 World Cup as the nation of Russia. So they cannot carry the flag, they cannot carry the name, but they can still compete in qualifiers. And they still, if they qualify, I do think they can participate at FIFA 2022 World Cup. Am I right with that one?
I believe that they can, yeah, but they just can't do it under the official name of Russia.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if they were banned, I think there would be a note on like Wikipedia saying like,
yeah,
they're not participating or these matches don't count or something. But from what I've heard, they do count. Therefore, they're able. But let's be honest. If they qualify, you and I are going to refer to them as Russia on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You know, politics and all that. But Russia, I have them on standby. Yeah, I think them and the Croats are the two best teams of this group. They might be like Turkey, like you alluded to. They might be showing signs of being on the downturn. Very, very disappointing Euro 2020 in a group where they hosted two of their games in St. Petersburg, and they finished dead last behind Finland, which resulted in Stanislav Cherchesov, their manager's sacking. So, yeah, Russia, 2 Euros in a row, group stage exit. It's a far cry away from when they hosted the World Cup in 2018. The sort of their head in the sky from that. They've been crashed back down to reality. But look, it's a group of Slavic countries. They should pick points off each other. That's why they're in contention. They make it to the playoffs. I think they're good enough to qualify. I put them on standby.
Yeah, they were very impressive at the 2018 World Cup for sure. Guys like Cheryshev and who else was very impressive there? What's his name, man?
Golovin
at Monaco. But these guys have fallen off. Their form has really fallen off. Artem Zuba has been carrying the team for a while. But you'll know a lot about this Russian team. Weren't they grouped with Egypt at the World Cup?
Yeah, they were. They were grouped with us and the Saudis, and they breezed by both of us for comfort. Knocked out Spain on penalties. Almost came within penalties, I think, against Croatia.
Yeah.
To get to the semis, almost. Oh, don't forget Mario Fernandez as well.
Yeah. Brazilian. So look, man, I'm actually surprised that they sacked Stanislav Cherchesov. I think he was doing a great job with the team. But he was lucky to last that long because, you know, Russia ruthless when it comes to their managers, man. A lot of countries are, and especially in this group, this exact group, Slovakia, Slovenia, they don't play around to sack their managers. So Russia, interestingly though, Football Pharaoh, I do have them as qualifying directly. I do not trust Croatia. I do have them qualifying directly. But I made my predictions long before World Cup qualifiers started. But now that Stanislav Cherchesov is actually sacked, it throws like a wrench into the whole thing where it could be a downturn, or who knows, it could be an upturn where they just look like that 2018 team that we were impressed with. So I have them as qualifying directly for the World Cup though, and who knows what name they'll use, but it cannot be Russia, and they cannot use the official flag. I don't know if they can use the name. I don't know if they could use the name Russia, but not the flag. The flag can't be used. So last but not least, in Group H, Croatia, who debuted in 1998 and placed third impressively, and qualified for every World Cup since 2002 with the exception of the 2010 World Cup, and interestingly placed second at the 2018 World Cup. Quite an impressive team when you think about it, man. Big up to Croatia. Talk to me.
Oh, I think Croatia making it to the final the last World Cup, they're easily the biggest surprise World Cup finalist in like at least
ever
30, possibly ever, at least off the top of my head.
Ever 30. Bro, ever.
You think ever? Yeah, you know what? Maybe, yeah. Maybe.
Ever. When you think about it, when you really think about it, ever.
You're right, because I was thinking of other Eastern European sides, like the Czechs and Hungarians, where they were big dogs back in those days. Exactly. Where they made. Yeah, this is a really big surprise. I'm glad we got to live through it. Yeah, let's just concerns with Croatia though, over aging squad. They had a lot of retirements post 2018. You can't really trust them as far as you can throw them. I'm with you on that entirely. I have them on standby just because I think that they have the pedigree at this level. Also, pedigree through playoffs. Croatia used to have a knack for going through playoffs, making it to the World Cup. They've made it to every World Cup this century except for 2010. So they've become somewhat of a mainstay at the event. So that's why you always have to keep them in your mind that they're there or thereabouts. But yeah, I don't feel comfortable at all saying they're going to qualify directly.
Well, I'm different. I have them qualifying, but this is the only team I have. I'm pretty sure they'll make it, but not directly. They're going through the playoffs. They will be in Qatar, but through the playoffs. And I wasn't bold enough to call the other teams, but I'm bold enough to call Croatia. Okay. And I will share at the end of this video all the teams I have directly qualifying for the World Cup. Directly. Football Pharaoh is putting a lot of these teams into the standby section, but I actually have I actually made up my mind on a lot of these teams in terms of who's qualifying directly and who may qualify through the playoffs, because Croatia, only in 2002 that they did not qualify via the playoffs. All the other World Cup qualifications, playoffs, all the time. They love to do that to their fans. They love to play with the heartstrings of their fans, man. You know what I'm saying? So I could see them doing it again. So we're going to move right on in the next group. Group I, where we talk about England, Hungary, Albania. Just saying Hungary makes me a bit hungry, man. Poland, Andorra, and World Cup debutants for sure, San Marino. Let's talk about San Marino, man. Talk to me about San Marino.
I'll go ahead and knock out two right now. I have both San Marino and Andorra at invalid passport. Unfortunately, San Marino will not be able to defend their World Cup title this year. I don't know if you heard, but most of their team were like, "Nah, we're good," and they all retired. So now they gotta find replacements. They're going off doing bigger things, making book deals, starring in movies, and sitting on beaches with models and everything. You can't blame them being world champions. But San Marino and Andorra. Andorra themselves, the landlocked nation in between northern Spain and France. Yeah, I mean, they're not at the same level as San Marino. I think they should beat San Marino twice in this group. That just goes to show how lowly San Marino are. But this is actually the one group that has, I think, two of among the worst teams in it, because of the way the draw was conducted. Somehow Andorra found themselves in pot 5. So I don't have much to say. That's where both of them belong.
Yeah, we're gonna see some big score lines in this group, man. So definitely some golden nuggets, golden nugget time. San Marino has played 66 World Cup qualifying games. They have won none, drew 2, lost 64. During that period, I should say, they scored 11 goals and conceded 310. For Andorra, their record isn't much better. They have played 55 matches in qualifiers. They have won 2. They drew 3. They lost 50. They have scored 15 goals but conceded 170. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So we're going to move on to Poland. They qualified for 8 out of 21 World Cups, 1974, 1982. They placed 3rd at those events, and in 2018 they made it and they did not get out the groups. Talk to me about Robert Lewandowski's Poland.
This might be a little bit of a bold prediction. I think Poland might be a little bit on the way out. I have them on standby just because they could make it to the playoffs because they remained afloat in League A of the Nations League. And correct me if I'm wrong, might be wrong about this, but if they don't qualify, they're more than likely than not to make it to the playoffs because of the fact they're in the Nations League, right? In League A.
Well, yeah, they do not have a cushion for the Nations League. The teams, what's interesting is Albania and Hungary do have a cushion here. So when we get to Hungary, just note they're 2nd right now. They have a Nations League cushion from topping their group I in League B. So let's just make note of that one. So Poland do not have a cushion, and they're outside of the top 2 spots right now. But I think, judging from their quality, Robert Lewandowski, their team, Zielinski,
Trelanetti,
and you got to go to their goalkeepers, Fabianski and Szczesny. These guys, they have Bednarek in defense. They have some good players. They have some good players, but they're too heavily reliant on Robert Lewandowski. The other players need to step up and score some damn goals. Remember the Polish team fudged up the whole thing for the 2018 World Cup, where they were playing weak. They blatantly schedule games against weaker oppositions in friendlies so that they could actually seed. They could seed higher. Which is ridiculous, man. And they got exposed.
They really
got exposed.
You and I both called their bluff. You and I both predicted them to not advance from that group. Yeah. We both had some combination of Colombia, Senegal, and Japan. And they had a very disappointing Euro 2020 as well. So the last 2 major international tournaments, they've basically flopped. And I think they finished bottom. They lost to Slovakia. Yeah, they lost to Slovakia. They drew Spain. They lost to Sweden. Even before Euro 2020, I don't know if you heard this, but Robert Lewandowski was saying like he didn't have much confidence in like where this team was headed. I mean, their main talisman, it doesn't feel positive about the national team that he plays for, that he really carries on his own shoulders. But because of the quality they have on this team, I think they're the 2nd best side. You know, they play England this September. Maybe they can beat England and make a case for direct qualification again. But I'm going to say standby. I think that's fair. Standby for Poland.
I do have them on standby, but this was before the Euros, man. A certain team has emerged as a very, very one of the favorites to actually, let's say, even take a playoff spot. And that team is Hungary. I think Hungary would have something to say about that. But let's put them on standby because it's still early in qualifiers, and we know Poland do have some quality. And with Robert Lewandowski in any team, you got to give him the best chance possible. But I don't think they will qualify ahead of England, who we'll get to. I don't think they'll top this group at all. So let us talk about Albania, who currently has 6 points, potential debutants. Do you think Albania could do the damn business?
What's interesting about teams that are not minnows and teams that are not powerhouses, nor teams that are like a step below powerhouses, is that they are the trickiest ones to usually predict in groups because they can cause a whole bunch of mayhem and prevent other teams from qualifying. Albania, I have met visa denied, because I think that they should finish below England. and Poland and Hungary. All three were recent Euro 2020 participants, two of them being World Cup participants, the most recent edition. It's just too much for Albania. I mean, they're a team that how did they do in the last Nations League? Do you remember where they finished?
They finished the top their group because they do have a spot. They do have a spot. They top their group.
You're right. Yeah. They topped ahead of Belarus, Lithuania, and Kazakhstan. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still,
they're not a bad team. They have some quality in their team. You know what I mean? New quality striker coming through. Armando Broja, Chelsea youngster loan at Southampton. They have a few talented players playing in Italy. The names are not coming to me right now, but like Haisai, and you know, these names. They have some good players in the Granit Xhaka's brother, Tulan Xhaka. They do have some quality in their team, but I think it's too much to ask of them to go on to top this group, man.
Yeah.
But you never know. You never know.
Yeah, they're not a bad team, but
yeah, I have Albania. Where do I put Albania? I think I have Albania and Missed the Flight. I have them in Missed the Flight. A little above where you put them, but I have them in Missed the Flight. So let us talk about Hungary, man, who have qualified for 9 out of 23 World Cups, but interestingly have not made it since 1986. They came closest since then in 1998 when they made the playoffs and lost 12-1 to Yugoslavia, the last Yugoslavia team that was around in 1998. 12-1. God damn.
Wow.
Hungary, talk to me.
I think if Hungary had just a slightly easier group in Euro 2020, they make it to the knockout rounds. As you guys may remember, they came just a few minutes away from actually surviving that group. They had a 2-1 lead against Germany, but they ultimately relented. They played France to a 1-1 draw, a game in which they had led early on. They held Portugal at bay for 80+ minutes for Portugal, you know, finally found their form and put 3 past them. With guys like Fiola and Sabolazai and Salai, and I think Laszlo Kleinheisler, he's still on this team as well. Along with the Czech Republic and Ukraine, I like Hungary's chances of being one of Europe's teams to actually make a return to this World Cup. I would personally love to see sort of like a Magyar renaissance. I had them on standby.
Yeah, same here. I had to put them on standby, and I did put them on standby from early on, even before I saw what they did at the Euros or anything. I rated this team highly because recently they had some run-ins with Croatia, even beating Croatia. You remember that was Nations League, right? I think Nations League or Euro qualifier, something. I can't remember what, but they did pick up a recent victory against Croatia. You can recall that too, right?
Yeah, they did. It was in Euro qualifiers. They were in the same group as Croatia, and then they topped their Nations League group ahead of Russia, Serbia, and Turkey, and that's why they have the cushion of the Nations League spot. So
yeah, man, Hungary ain't no team to play with, man, and they have a good setup there and some quality players. And imagine if they had like a Dominic Szoboszlai in their team for the Euros. Oh man, Gulaski did a good job. Willie Orban. This team, you know, Loic Nego, the Jalai, Roland Jalai, and Jalai. I can't differentiate from these guys right now, but some very good quality in the Bundesliga, and they could be a force to be reckoned with in World Cup qualifiers, and even bringing the Magyars back at the great event, because it's just sad what has happened to Hungary, man. It's one of the greatest declines ever. When you think about what Ferenc Puskás did back in the days with that team.
Yeah, they really are one of the great what-ifs of international footballing history. They could have won a World Cup, but
exactly
they didn't. Yeah.
Wait, that was 1950 or 1954 when they made the final. Which one?
Well, they made the final twice. They made it in 38 and 54.
And wasn't it in 50? They lost to Germany in 54. Who they lost to in 54? Germany or Brazil? Germany.
They lost to the West Germans after
Yeah.
they relented a 2-goal lead.
And
They lost 3-2.
didn't they smash Germany early in the tournament? Wasn't it some story like that where it was like a ridiculous scoreline earlier in the tournament? And it's just ridiculous. I need to actually just refresh my memory here because, you know, just to brush up on my whole World Cup thing, because back in 2018 I could have told you exactly what happened. But I want to know. Yeah, 1954.
I think it was 8-3, something like that.
Yeah, it was some ridiculous score, man. It was some ridiculous score, and this is a golden nugget as well. This is definitely a golden nugget. So let me find Hungary. Okay, West Germany, Hungary, 8-3 in the group stages, and Hungary beat South Korea 9-0 as well. But for the final where they met West Germany in the final and lost. So it's a great story, man. It's a great story, and I'm glad that I'm actually bringing it up. It's golden nugget time, baby. Golden nugget time.
Who knows? Maybe they'll qualify and go on a deep run in Qatar.
You never know, man. You never know. So last but not least in the group, the three kittens, Euro 2020 finalists, and they meowed out of the contention of winning the thing.
Yeah, banter.
They were supposed to roar and grab the title. They were just so close, but freaking Southgate chose to send up teenagers when you had men. He chose to send the kid. He had lions to actually take the penalties, and he sent up the kittens, which does not make any sense. Talk to me about England.
Yeah, I think it was a major miscalculation. He probably did that because he was trying to get like Sancho and Saka to like express confidence and then be like, "Hey, you got this. You can do this. Yeah, it's high stake." Unfortunately, yeah, they're going to live with that for the rest of their lives. Those misses. You know what? I think England has a lot to be proud about. I think that in the last few years, they've been one of the more consistent sides in UEFA. They've made 3 semifinals of major tournaments: the last World Cup, the first Nations League, and now the final of Euro 2020, losing out on home soil at Wembley to Italy. I think that England is going to qualify for the World Cup. They should qualify. I have them going directly. You know, I'm very conservative with my picks of who's definitely going. England should be on that plane. And I want to see if this loss in the Euro 2020 final will prove to be something they look back on as that was their best chance and they're not going to get another opportunity like that for another couple of generations, or if they can maybe go one step further in Qatar. There's a part of me that thinks maybe they can make another semis or finals appearance next year. I think that Southgate, you know, his tactics have been criticized. I mean, you look at how England performed in the group stages. They got those like very meager 1-0 victories over the Czech Republic and Croatia. Raheem Sterling was the only goal scorer, but they turned it up a notch in the knockout rounds. They put Germany to the sword. They beat them in a competitive game for the first time in 20 years. You have to go back to 2002 World Cup qualifying. They destroyed Ukraine. They came from behind against Denmark, which I actually think that showed character for them to be able to do that. And they're a team that you got to give them credit. They were very organized in that tournament. They did not concede a single goal from open play in the entire Euros. So I think they're still a threat, still a team to look out for. England's going to Qatar. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah, I also have England qualifying for Qatar, and they might just go and win all their games. They have so much depth in that team, and I'll be surprised if they pull a 1994, which was the last time they actually failed to qualify for the World Cup. They placed third in their group, and interestingly, they had Poland and San Marino in their World Cup qualifying group back when they missed out. So I don't think lightning is gonna strike twice, though. I think England got it, and they'll qualify directly.
And that was also I didn't mean to cut you up, but that was also a qualifying cycle. after just finishing in 4th place in the previous World Cup.
Exactly, 1990. They were champions in 1966, and at the 2018 World Cup, they placed 4th, losing the 3rd place playoffs to Belgium, of course. So that will do it for Group I, and it brings us to the final group. Finally, we are here. Oh my God, what a relief. Group J. I know you guys want us to actually make up some groups and just continue, but we have to end it here. Let us talk about Group J, where there's Armenia, surprisingly, on top of the group right now. North Macedonia 2nd. Germany, yes, you do not have an excess of wax in your ears. You're hearing this right. Germany 3rd, Romania 4th, Iceland and Liechtenstein, potential debutants 6th. In terms of the Nations League cushion, who has that cushion? I actually moved away from my Nations League screen just so that I could give you guys that golden nugget.
I think Armenia does.
Yes, I am back there. Armenia has it, definitely Armenia, and Germany do not. So if Germany somehow manages to finish 3rd, they will not have a backdoor into the playoffs. So Germany, you better get your act together, and I mean very fast. So the only team from this group that has the loophole back into the playoffs, if they place 3rd, is Armenia. Things are really looking up for Armenia, man. They're looking good. Talk to me about Liechtenstein, though. We'll get to Armenia pretty soon. Liechtenstein,
I have them, or Liechtenstein, however you say it. I have them an invalid passport. I think that this is one of my favorite groups. I think there is a clear favorite here in Germany, and then you have 4 other teams that I think are really going to be duking it out for that 2nd spot. And then you have Liechtenstein, who's just really a class below all the rest. I wouldn't even put them in visa denied. I think it's just they're not good enough.
Do you think that there's any chance you visit Liechtenstein before you kick the bucket, bro? I don't know. Imagine going on the run and just hiding out in Liechtenstein. They will never find you.
Yeah, they might not nobody might not suspect it either. It's a very rich country. I honestly don't know much about it. I would have to look into it and see if I would go there. But
yeah, Liechtenstein, man, weird. You know, if you do a quiz, you walk around Manhattan and you ask people if they ever heard of a country named Liechtenstein, maybe 99% of Americans would be like, no, what the hell are you talking about? So we're gonna move on though. Save the banter. Iceland, 2018 World Cup debutants, 2014 playoffs. Let's talk to me about Iceland, man.
Well, the Cinderella story for Iceland seems to be over. Ever since the World Cup ended, they've had 2 horrible Nations League campaigns. I think they've lost every single Nations League game across both seasons. They didn't qualify for the last European Championship. They lost out to the Hungarians. They still have decent quality on their team. I think they're still going to be in contention. Now, here's the thing about Iceland. They play all 3 of their games this September at home. They have to make the most of it. If they don't get at least 6 points from that, the schedule is only going to get tougher from there. And already they're at a disadvantage in this group because they don't have any Nations League to fall back on. They're already, I think, at or near the bottom of the table so far. I just think they might fade back to maybe not necessarily becoming a minnow again, but becoming a team that you would expect to miss the flight, and I think they're going to miss the flight.
One thing that we must note, and which is a very sad situation, but they will also be without their star man Gylfi Sigurdsson because of that allegation against him. So he was not called up for the national team. He is probably currently suspended or on time off because it's a tough thing to be dealing with. So listen, man, Iceland, listen, as much as you have been doing well and you've given us a Cinderella story, I don't know, man. I had them on standby just because I give them a chance in this very, very open group where them and, when you really look at this group on paper, it's them and Germany supposed to actually be on top, and Romania. But the group is very lopsided right about now. Where do you have Iceland again?
I had them on miss the flight because I think that while it would not be surprising if they go to the playoffs, I don't like their odds there.
Yeah, and the whole Gylfi Sigurdsson situation is just, you know, it's
messed
sad,
up.
man.
Especially the charges,
Yeah, and to just touch on another one, the whole Benjamin Mendy situation as well.
Oh yeah, I heard about that loosely. Well,
yeah, and another situation I found out about today while doing a little research is the former Zambian coach as well. He's also up for similar allegations. So it's just Mr. Militin Sredojevic. It's just crazy. But anyways, we'll continue. I don't want to go too off tangent here. Let's talk about Romania, man. Romania, very, very strange country that basically it has that language that no other country speaks, right? Romanian, which is it's Romania's actually, it's a Romance language. A lot of people don't. Yeah.
But its location in Europe is odd because they're surrounded by a bunch of Slavic countries, and they're kind of like an anomaly in their own region of the continent. It's an interesting place, and Romania does have a rich footballing history, both nationally and domestically. Sides like Steaua Bucuresti, who won the European Cup. That was before the Champions League era. They did that back in the late 80s. You go back to the 1994 Romanian national team, who reached the quarterfinals of the World Cup that year under, I can't pronounce his name, George Hagi. Yeah. So Romania, I think, like on paper in this group, you would think, along with Iceland, they really should be the ones that are challenging. But because of the fact you've had North Macedonia and Armenia really do something special so far, nobody in this group is really safe by any means. Romania themselves, they beat North Macedonia, they lost to Germany, and I believe they lost to Armenia on the road earlier this year. They have upcoming games against Iceland away. I think they play North Macedonia away, and they have one game at home against Liechtenstein. I think Romania is going to miss the flight, though. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised they managed to come second, but right now I just look at the group, and it comes across like Armenia and North Macedonia, we'll get to in a moment, are really in better form right now at the current moment. Romania, they missed the last European Championship, whereas North Macedonia, they premiered at the European Championship this summer. And I just think that maybe the likes of North Macedonia and Armenia are in a better groove right now. So I have Romania on miss the flight. How about you?
Well, I actually have them on visa denied, to tell the truth.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think they have the quality to even come through the playoffs, man. And look, Romania team that last made it to the World Cup in 1998, where they famously, the entire team dyed their hair blonde, and they made the playoffs for 2002, didn't make it, and for 2014 as well. So they've always had quality, but just not enough to push the envelope and make it to the major, the creme de la creme, the FIFA World Cup. So I have them as visa denied, but you have them as missed the flight. They're a decent team. They're a decent team, man.
Well, that's an occasion where you were more ruthless than I was.
Definitely. Let us talk about Germany. We only got 3 teams to go, and let's talk about Germany. Interestingly, Germany, it's crazy. They're 3rd in this group right now. 6 points. They have qualified for 19 out of 21 World Cups, so it's even preposterous to think that they're going to miss the World Cup, but you never know. 1954, 74, 90, 1990, 2014 champions. One of the most successful nations when it comes to the World Cup. Germany. They're going through somewhat of a transition with manager. Hansi Flick taking over from Joachim Löw, who I think spent 3 years too much after they got knocked out in the group stages. He should have been gone. And it actually showed in qualifiers, and he's now gone. So how do you think they'll do with in the Hansi Flick era in terms of them making it to the World Cup?
I think they're lucky to get a group like this. I think that the draw was kind to them. Now, of course, they got an infamous result with that loss at home to the North Macedonians. But it's still going to take something spectacular for them to miss out. And plus, with Jogi Löw finally gone, we saw how Hansi Flick came in. He overturned Bayern Munich. I actually expect him to do the same with Germany. I think they're going to qualify directly, comfortably. I agree. I mean, I said before, Jogi Löw stayed about 1,000 days longer than he should have, literally. Yep. Should have been gone. It took 2 disappointing Nations Leagues and a Euro 2020 exit in the round of 16 to England of all teams for him to finally leave. And not only that, he left on his own terms,
which is crazy,
which is inexcusable. And I've said before on my channel, I'm being a little bit ruthless. It's hard to feel sorry for Germany, because like the DFB, this is kind of like what they did to themselves. They were afraid to make that change after the last World Cup, and now they bring in a new manager with just 15 months before the next one. So, but they're lucky. They got a group like this. They avoided a strong second-tier team in this group. They could have gotten to really challenge them for that top spot. Like they avoided Switzerland, they avoided Poland or Sweden. So I think they're going to qualify directly. I don't really have much to say else about Germany. I trust Hansi Flick, though. But here's the thing about Germany, I will say they need to be careful. North Macedonia took their scalp. The other teams in this group are going to believe they can do it as well.
Exactly. You got to keep your eye on this fixture that's coming up against Armenia, though. They do play Liechtenstein, so I do expect them to destroy Liechtenstein on the road. I expect that. But then the game against Armenia is a tricky game. It's a very, very tricky game that they should not take lightly. And then they play Iceland on the road in Reykjavik. So it's those two fixtures. I think if Germany and I did look at, when you really look at their squad, Hansi Flick called up some really unknown players, like players that even though I do scroll through and I look through the Bundesliga teams and I do keep in touch of what's going on, I don't know some of these players. So it could be a tricky one. It could really be a tricky one, man. But I do think they'll have enough to qualify for the World Cup, though. It will be disastrous if they don't make it. What's the famous saying? I think Gary Lineker, what did he say about Germany?
Football is a simple game. 22 men play on a pitch for 90 minutes, and at the end of the day, the Germans always win.
Oh man! And did he say that in the wake of didn't Germany beat England in the 1990? Was it 1990 or what? What World Cup did he say that?
They did beat Germany in the semis of 1990. I don't know if that was the specific event that inspired the quote.
Yeah. So let's just continue here and talk about these two teams that were supposed to actually be minnows, somewhat just above, or flirting with minnow status, especially Armenia. And I know the Armenian fans would be like, nah, we're much better than that. We are more than Mkhitaryan. There's actually better players and all of that. But what Armenia has done so far is simply ridiculous, bro. This is shocking what they have done. 1-0 against Liechtenstein, but they beat Iceland 2-0, and then beat Romania 3-2, which is like, whoa. I'm ready to see what they're gonna do against Germany. And they have that Nations League cushion as well, which is very interesting. who knows? Who knows what would happen if the stars align? They would somehow end up in the playoffs, and I had no choice but to put Armenia in the playoffs. This is their best start ever. They have never ever impressed in World Cup qualifiers before, and who knows, man? Dream on. Aerosmith says dream on, Armenia. Talk to me. Well, I actually skipped. I got carried away there. Let's talk about Armenia and then we talk about North Macedonia, though, because I got carried away there with Armenia. Talk to me about Armenia, man.
Armenia is hard for me to assess because I think a caveat that needs to be mentioned here is that this, outside of Germany, it might not be the most challenging group. But look, they're one of only 4 teams in all of Europe right now to be sitting on 9 points. Those other 3 are Italy, England, and Denmark. And this is a stellar start for Armenia. You look at their upcoming schedule. They play North Macedonia away. Yeah, it's tricky, but it's winnable. They beat North Macedonia in the Nations League. They were in the same group. They play. They then play, I believe. Let me see here. They play against Liechtenstein. That's a mandatory 3 points for them. And then they play away to Germany, and that is going to be one of the more enticing matchups of all of September, in my view. They could come through that, even if they lose to Germany, Dom. They could come through the September window sitting on 15 points, and and they would still be level with Germany because Germany have 6 points. And if Germany wins their 3 games, they could still be level with them. So Armenia, I can't believe I'm saying this. For now, I have them on standby because they can, I mean, dare I say, can they challenge for first in this group and qualify directly? If not, maybe they can come through the playoffs.
Look, if Germany continues to drop points like this, Armenia definitely has a chance to qualify directly. That would be absolutely nuts.
Mental, yes.
That would be nuts. I think the nation of Armenia, they would go crazy if this actually happened. And they deserve to be on standby, judging from the start they've got. Would you have put them on standby if we actually did this when everyone had 0?
Oh, hell no. I would have put them at either missed the flight or even visa denied, because I would have had Iceland. Yeah, I would have had all 3 of Iceland, Romania, and North Macedonia ahead of them because of what North Macedonia did earlier this year. I would have had them on visa denied. So they might be the biggest like beneficiaries of the fact that games have already been played, because I never thought I would put them on standby at all.
Last but not least, North Macedonia, one of the coolest flags in the world and in world football. Talk to me about North Macedonia, man. They are potential debutants and they qualified for their first Euros, where they benefited from the Nations League path. So wait. Okay, continue.
Well, the sun may be setting on this video, but the sun is still rising, as you see on North Macedonia's flag. I was going back and forth between standby and missed the flight. But, I don't see much separating Armenia and North Macedonia in quality. North Macedonia has already got those 3 points against Germany. So as much as we talk about Armenia, North Macedonia only has to worry about Germany one more time, whereas they still play the likes of Romania and Iceland and Liechtenstein. North Macedonia could very much so challenge for one of those top 2 spots. Do they have the quality to come through the playoffs? Maybe. It depends. But I'm going to put them on standby, because if they can beat Germany, why the hell can't they beat Hungary or Finland or the Czechs in the playoffs? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have them on standby. How about you?
I actually have them in missed the flight, but they could, man. It's very intriguing. And this chat was worth every minute of it, because just going through all 55 teams, giving every team the attention they deserve, it is not easy, man. It is not easy. So guys, if you got to the end of this it took us 2 hours to do this, and this is a marathon. This is a marathon video that we obviously, if you get to the end here, we have split up into parts, various parts. And look, it was fun. It was fun doing it with you, Football Pharaoh, and it's gonna be very, you know, exciting to just go on this World Cup 2022 journey with you as well, because you and I, we're planning on doing a lot of content over the next year and about, let's say, 2 months or so leading up to the World Cup, and collaborating. Now that we have great platforms like StreamYard, where I could just call you and we're right there, we're basically in the same room, you know, it's perfect. It's perfect, man. So it was a pleasure, man. It was a pleasure. What do you have anything to say? I know you want to cry and everything, but it's
yeah. Well, we've been working on this, guys, for 2 hours and 41 minutes now, approaching 3 hours. We do this because we love this kind of content, and we know you do too. If you reach the end of this series, we hope you really enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed yet to Dom, please do so. You're going to get content on his channel that you will not find anywhere else. Also, thank you for having me on. It was really fun to go through these teams, and I can't wait for the ball to be kicked off next week. We got a lot of games all around the world, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I know you're gonna be going live for these games. I'm gonna try to do so too. So, guys, if you want to catch Football Pharaoh, go in depth. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. A link would be in the description box down below. As he said, sub to me if you're not already done so. Leave us some comments in the chat, man. You know, like the video if you do like it. All the best to every single one of the teams participating in qualifiers. And from your boy, Football Pharaoh, and Dominic Rich, peace out. Rich Squad.
Peace.
Namaste. Peace.